Good evening and welcome to the Gin and Tonic Show on Friday, the 22nd of June, 2018. A warm welcome to all of you from wherever you are viewing around the world, and a good evening to my co-panelists. Stop spamming. How are you, my good sir?
Excellent. Thank you.
Good. Hopefully you've had a reasonable week. And hopefully all of you have had a decent day out there. We have 28 people watching at the moment with 5 thumbs up. So what does Kalam always say? I can't remember now, but give us a few thumbs up there. I don't know if the broadcast can keep going. We might have to cut this short. Yeah, but something like, I'm going to have to bring this broadcast to a close if I don't get enough thumbs up or some words to that effect.
Unless you show us some serious love here, we're not going to do anything. We're going to go on strike.
Yeah, we're going to start the show and call it to a close in 5 minutes. Good evening, everybody. Hope you're all well. So what we're hoping to have tonight is a rational argument or arguments for Allah. I'm waiting to see if my Muslim guest will be joining us. He's the gentleman that joined us last week, and he wanted to present some rational arguments. He also did a refutation, which I have watched, and I think I've passed it as stops, attempting to debunk rationality rules video. And rationality rules was debunking the video of atheism is over by some other Muslim channel. So this was a supposed debunking of rationality rules debunking of atheism is over, which is a bit of a mouthful. I did watch it, and there were loads of problems in there. What we have got, in case our Muslim friend does not show up, is a video from our good friend Mohammed Hijab, who says, let me quote it, make sure I get it right. Well, quote the video anyway. God is provable like gravity. Muslim atheist discussion. So if it doesn't show up,
then wonderful! At last, 50,000 years of waiting are over.
Is it that long? Yes. So there we go. So it appears to be provable like gravity. Well, if that's the case, I'm ready to take my shahada. We'll have to just obviously pay close attention and see if in fact it is as provable as gravity. But in the meantime, let's do a few crazy comments. We haven't got too many here. By the way, if you're a viewer,
Rob, just to get to somehow to ease the tension, is it clouds or trees?
Which one?
The proof that God's or this God or his God or whatever, that this is proof like gravity. Is it because of the trees and the clouds and that?
No, it's quote unquote rational arguments. That's how it's provable.
Okay, so it's not the trees and the.
No. It's not the trees and the clouds. So yes, we'll go on to, by the way, apart from Rafe, if you enjoy crazy comments for educational or entertainment purposes, please hit a 1. If you hate them profusely and you'd rather we never did crazy comments, then hit a 2. I'd like to hear what you as the viewers think, because obviously we want to produce a show that is both entertaining and educational to whatever degree that's possible for you, the viewer. So if we're doing things that you really hate and the majority of you really hate it, then we'll look to do something different. So with that said, let me jump in here to the crazy comments. Now, I don't know if this first one has been, whether I did this last week. Perhaps somebody can tell me. I'm not entirely sure. But this isn't really, well, this is a crazy comment in the sense that Paul Williams, who is a Muslim, who we disagree with vehemently on basically every topic, received a death threat from another Muslim. So this Islamic Productions HD, 2 bums. Dude on the right would be killed by Qur'anist, and as he is a Sunni, and dude on the left would be forced to pay jizya tax and stop supporting a Zionist state. So I'm not sure which video this was originally. This was taken off Twitter. Why is the Sunni homosexual talking about Islam? I'm a Qur'anist, and if I see him, I will kill him. And somebody responded there, the Israel advocacy movement. The moderate face of Islam has arrived. So no matter how much we disagree with Paul, or anybody else for that matter, any other Muslim, we need to speak out against, obviously, physical violence and threats, as is the case here. So we can see that it happens presumably among so-called Muslims, because one of them is going to claim to be a Muslim and the other one isn't, so, or going to claim that the other one is not a proper Muslim. So there we go.
But if he's a Quranist, what does he base that on?
Well, good question. I mean, you never really hear from these sort of people. They just sort of make one-line comments and leave it at that. And, you know, whatever's in their heads.
There's nothing in the Quran that prohibits homosexuality.
Yeah, so then I wonder on what basis he's making that claim. Is it the scholars? And if it is, where are the scholars getting that information? And as you say, if it's not from the Quran, then being a Quranist kind of is a bit of a contradiction there.
Yeah, it's weird, eh?
Yep, a shout out there to Answer Scientific Method and to everybody else who's watching. Right, moving on. So there was a Yashad Akwadi. I know I'm pronouncing these names terribly, but this guy's quite well known. I think Stops, you know him quite well. He's had doubts about Islam. He fully accepts evolution.
Yeah, but he had. I mean, this is old. Okay, the Dean Institute, this conference. This was like 8 years ago or something. Because I remember I made a video about this because it was all about evolution. And Yasser Qadhi was the one who says, now after the conference, I'm not so sure anymore, because the fact of evolution and the first cell and the origin of life, I'm not so sure about. So, you know, they talk about evolution, but they don't know what evolution actually is. And Yasser Qadhi is one of them who does not understand the first thing about anything scientific. Where he has doubts, though, is because of the text of the Quran, which is said to be unchanged, and there are several versions of the Quran. So, I mean, that's quite easy, and I don't know why it's taken this guy a couple of years, but it's a typical thing. Once you start looking at the text and you really start studying them, that's when you get the doubts.
Yes, which obviously he seemingly has, but hasn't deconverted. Here was a comment anyway on this particular video. The word used is for zygote in the Quran is, because I brought this up purely because obviously you're going to be doing a debate, which we'll talk about later. Hopefully, if that's still going ahead tomorrow, so that we can get
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, he's lying and he's slandering me like crazy. So I think it's still happening tomorrow. So I think he's getting ready. He's building it up.
What, to not do it?
No. He's badgering me in an effort to, you know, this trash talk to somehow, I don't know, make me weak, or I don't know what he thinks.
I think it's like a heavyweight fight where if you talk enough trash, you'll psych the other opponent out. I mean, you know, that's intellectually honest, but there you go. Anyway, this fellow, whoever this commenter is, says the word used for zygote in the Quran is the Arabic word nufta, which you've done to death.
Nutfa.
Nutfa, yeah. Then we made him into a nutfa in a stable, welcoming lodging. And we know that, or the nutfa has to be placed in a specific spot in the womb. If the zygote is placed in any place in the womb, the pregnancy would not be successful. So I only brought that up because I know you're going to be talking about this. I knew you would say that. So I thought that's why I'd bring it to you.
That's total bullshit. Number one, nutfa. Everybody, I mean, you could just go to any dictionary and you will see it's the, you know, it's a rest of liquids, and that's it. And this is obviously the observation that they made, that semen was just a liquid, and they realized that when you put the semen into a woman, then she gets pregnant. But the idea behind it was totally wrong. That's it. So no,
okay. Yep.
This is projection.
Oh, hang on a second. I didn't need to do that. Let's make it a bit bigger. So this was Phil talking to somewhat crazy Christians, not crazy in the sense that they were nutcases, but just crazy with their, you know, old young earth creationist type beliefs. And some
whale turning into a hippo is getting funnier. That was never ever said.
I don't think that was talked about. No. Well, he talked about a whale. I think he talked about a whale's hind legs, the fact that they've got these, you know, vestigial organs type thing. I can't remember.
They are cousins. They are cousins, and you can see that the hippo, for example, the nostrils are at the front, and with the whale, it's on top.
Yeah, so it's obviously moved over time. I thought that the monkey business was the best we'll get. Here, one for abiogenesis. Mix the chemicals in a soup bowl in your labs and produce some form of life. Make rows grow and produce a grain of rice. Even better, make a fly. The chances of the Big Bang happening is like a printing shop exploding and producing a dictionary. Oh dear.
It's amazing.
The level of comprehension.
The level of intellectual monstrosity is flabbergasting.
And I don't know if that is Bruce Lee, but somebody's nick. I don't know if that is Bruce Lee, the little icon there, but that's a an affront to all Bruce Lee fans who actually did a little bit of philosophical study amongst his kung fu and so forth. There we go. Those idiot Muslims criticizing Paul by making videos against him should feel utterly ashamed of themselves, seeing how Paul is defending the faith brilliantly against this Islamophobe. Paul should have called his cohort Nizam in, who could have helped further, as Nizam was in the background at the beginning of the conversation. Nevertheless, this fellow who was challenged to bring further evidence to back his claim will be utterly destroyed when I'm sure Paul will consult Nizam and Mansour in readiness for part 2. And if the Aussie cameraman has any decency to do justice to the issue concerned, this posh fellow will be silenced. Obviously, I'm not Aussie, and the edited version will be coming out shortly, but this was from the live stream where Jamie confronted Paul and talked about, well, 2 things really from what I can remember. One was one of the scientific, not one of the prophecies, I think, or predictions, and the other one was the numerical inheritance error. And so Paul was, according to this fellow here, he was, what was he doing? He was defending the faith brilliantly against Islamophobe. I know all these Islamophobes wanting to criticize Islam. What are they doing? It is nonsensical. Yes, I've got the most un-Australian accent. Thank you. That's absolutely right. Obviously, a fella thought I was an Australian cameraman. And if I got any decency to do justice to the issue concerned, this posh fellow will be silenced. Is he talking to me or Jamie? Probably Jamie. Jamie's more posh than me. I'm guessing so.
Yep, mate. Talk to the Sheila.
Right. This guy was exposed for being ignorant. He read half an hour of the tafsir. That's obviously, this is Jamie talking to Adnan. He read half an hour of a tafsir and became very knowledgeable to call it an error. What a fool. And our good friend TDS Dave replied, he read the Quran's rules on inheritance and showed it was not fit for purpose, that by applying it in some circumstances, you get logical, nonsensical results that you cannot use. This is a book from Allah with basic math problems. Do you not understand this? No tafsir, hadith, fiqh, etc. solves the problem in the Quran. Well, of course not. But certainly these Muslims think that you have to, study 10,000 tafsirs. And if you did study 10,000 and they all said the same thing, what would the next excuse be? Are they actually going to deal with the issue? And if you haven't watched the video, I have now made it live on my channel. So go to Speakers Corner UK and you will see the part, and Stops did a lovely long comment on there as well that I saw just came up earlier today with Adnan and then the chubby Muslim coming in at the end from the camera, just talking nonsense there. So that was that one.
Because Jamie, I felt very sorry for him because he's not used to this, okay? Because all you need to do is turn around to Adnan and say, okay, brilliant idea. You tell me how many tafsirs, by whom, saying what does it take before you will accept an opinion which is voiced in the Quran?
Yeah, but
Adnan would be sitting there spluttering.
No, he's not going to get a response to his question. He's just going to get more red herrings and deflections. But you haven't studied 10,000 tafsirs, and you are X, Y, and Z. And
that's why I would have said, how many does it take? How many do you want? Okay, and then the next question is I don't know, is pork haram? Is pork forbidden? Is it forbidden? Well, how many tafsirs have you read that actually confirm that pork is forbidden?
Yeah, that's why we need you down there. Well, hopefully next weekend I'll be down, and I've got a second SIM card. So if you're available, the weather permitting and all other things being equal, I'll have you on Skype in my ear, and we can have a chat, and you can put forward things, and I will repeat what you're saying. So it's
that would be brilliant. Yeah. That's what my God, that's like what we did with Ike. There you go.
Correct. Yes. So we'll attempt to do that again.
3
Obviously,
glasses of water, and I'm completely drunk.
I know. Go and get yourself a gin and tonic while you're at it. Get yourself sober with a gin and tonic. So yes, hopefully, obviously, the stream will be behind.
One is coffee and one is water.
Oh, right.
I've got 2 things here. One is coffee and one is water.
Well, that's not going to get you sober, is it? You need a proper alcohol to get you sober. But anyway, yeah, so obviously you'll have to listen to me and quiet in the stream, because the stream will be sort of 30 seconds behind. So I'll have like an earpiece in that you can listen in and then talk back to me. So we'll see how that goes next weekend. Hopefully we will let you know Then.
And I can spot on. Internet, the best tool for Muslims to spread the lies again. Exactly. And internet is the best tool to kill them.
Yes, and to spread facts as well, as we see with so many ex-Muslims. I've just joined. By the way, for those who are listening, if you haven't, the Masked Arab has just put out a video where he's on a Discord server. So go watch it. It's a 10-minute video from the Masked Arab. Go to I think it's the Masked Arab's channel, and you'll see him talking about it. You can join that server. I've asked on the server if there's any Muslims. I'm yet to hear back. So it's Muslims, ex-Muslims, and others. There we go. Right, moving on. Nervous, seem desperate, no manners, show a lack of command on your subject, plus weak voice and breaking. Yeah, thanks, Jamie. I think you converted more people to Islam than Adnan. And I responded, except Jamie pointed out a knockdown mathematical error in the Qur'an that Adnan had no response for, other than bring up red herrings and shout loudly, hoping people will think that constitutes a robust response. Hopefully you can see through the obscurantism. Probably not.
Yep, perfect.
So yes, of course, look at Jamie, whether he's saying every single word perfectly, and that's definitely going to be a good response to the actual facts and so forth that he's bringing out. This is the best they've got. Here's another one. Allah, the only God, Muhammad, SAW, the last messenger of Allah, Islam, the only true religion, and TDS Dave to the rescue. And the Quran has mathematical errors in it. Oops, TDS Dave, show me. Did you not watch the video?
Yeah, they always do. Show me. They have no internet connection. They can't Google. They can't do anything. They always say, show me. Show me. There's an error in the Quran. Show me.
Well, it's in the video, which is what TDS Dave said.
Yeah.
Did you watch the video? If you apply the Quran's inheritance rulings on the scenario given, the total number of shares adds up to more than one. Do you understand fractions? Muha. Facts cannot penetrate the mighty shield of Allah. Now, I'm sure this is meant as what do you call it? Satire. Yeah. The mighty shield of Allah. So, yes. Show me when I've just watched it. Okay, we're back to that one. So that's our crazy comments for the day. I mean, this is on a video that's just talked about this, and the guy asked, show me. I mean, it's like me watching, a scientific video talking about, black holes, and somebody says, well, something about black holes. I say, show me. Well, like, did you not watch the video? Clearly not.
Well, I have this on Haman videos where I just showed that Haman is not on any hieroglyph as is claimed. And they said, well, there's Dr. Bouquet who's shown that there is. And I said, what? This has been a 30-minute video showing that Dr. Bouquet was lying, and you're telling me that now Dr. Bouquet has found it? But this is exactly the topic here. They will not accept it.
No, it doesn't matter. Some of them, well, then you get the few that are critical thinkers, and inevitably they become ex-Muslims. But the rest, they will find some. And the sad thing is they can, deflect and bring out red herrings and straw men and you name it, all kinds of tactics. And unfortunately, there's so many Muslims who will just follow it literally like sheep, as long as their Muslim interlocutor is saying something. Some words are coming out of his mouth, no matter how incoherent or not backed up by evidence or good reasons. They'll just accept it, which is kind of sad, really. But hopefully they're not all that way. So there we go. Now, I am looking here.
And if somebody happens to live in West Africa, this is a map of where somebody or somehow Google has traced my tab, which was swiped in the gym. And if somebody lives there, please hit somebody over the head and see if you could locate it. But it's quite funny that within like 3 weeks, it ends up in West Africa, which is amazing for me.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened. Jinn&Tonic show. My favorite is when Adnan said, God exists, but you don't like the fact. Yes, just make bold aspersions with zero evidence when you can't even, by your own admission, add fractions, and then you want to discuss the topic. That's like, me discussing particle physics and saying I've never read anything at all on particle physics, but I want to. I mean, yes. And the answer saying only idiots would.
Okay, put on the video. I want to see this thing with hijab, because I haven't seen. I've seen that he made one, but I didn't have the time to watch it yet.
What's that for?
This is a very fresh scientific proof of Quran. A must watch. He is great. What? See his YouTube clip. Of whom? Wäre Jahre. Scientific proof of Jinn, Dawa, man. Yes, that was brilliant. I don't know how he manages to do that, really. I mean, Vidu, I don't know how he has this knack of observing how somebody says what and then being able to replicate it. I don't know how he does that.
Yes, it's very good, the Dawa man thing, and especially the part where he says, which I thought was brilliant, where he I'm going to see if I can find it while I'm speaking about it here. We talk about everything else here and so forth, but it is really good. Here we go, scientific proof of the Jinn, especially where he says, I've got to speak slowly for you atheists. I thought that was brilliant. Well, I actually quoted that. He said, what did he say? He said, I love the bit where you were saying, for you atheists, time to clock on. So here it is. I'll post this. So if you haven't watched this video, go watch it. It's comedy gold. It's satire at its best. And that's a shout out to Vidu. So it really is, brilliant. He's so good at those sort of things. As I say, we still haven't heard from my Muslim fellow that we set up this show for. But in the meantime, before we do anything else, because we have got a backup here. So as I say, if our Muslim interlocutor is not going to present his rational reasons for Allah, or is not available, or something's happened, I've not heard. I've got him on Skype and on Facebook, and I've sent messages, but I haven't had a response yet. Then we'll have a look at a video with hijab claiming that gravity, that what's the word? God is provable like gravity. But before we do that, a few news articles. Unless you've got something else you want to add, Stops.
No.
All right, let's add a few news articles here. We haven't done that for quite a while, and I thought this was interesting. This is more on the freedom of speech, but that obviously is a big thing in Speaker's Corner, and a lot of Muslims are anti-free speech. And this was interesting. So this lady, Alison Shabloz, however you pronounce that, avoids jail over anti-Semitic songs. So a blogger who was found guilty of broadcasting anti-Semitic songs on YouTube was given a 2-year suspended prison sentence. This lady songs. Yeah, this is in the UK, by the way. We're not talking about, Austria, where, anti-Semitism, or certain other countries where anti-Semitism would get you absolutely locked up. It will here too, obviously. But she avoided by singing 3 songs about Nazi persecution, including one about the diarist Anne Frank. She claimed the Holocaust is a bunch of lies and referred to Auschwitz as a theme park. Hey, listen, everybody's entitled to their delusions, and all we have to do is bring facts. That's what we do with this sort of thing. The same thing with that.
Yeah, it looks just like a theme park.
Who was that historian that was locked up for 3 years in Austria? David, somebody or other. I'm sure somebody in the chat will tell me. Anyway, so this lady was convicted on 2 counts of sending offensive, indecent, or menacing messages through public communications network, and the 3rd charge relating to a song on YouTube. She was sentenced to 20 weeks imprisonment, suspended for 2 years. And this person of some campaign group described her as a remorseless and repulsive anti-Semite. Now, obviously, we always
banned from posting. No, I'm sorry. I can't believe this. I can't believe that no, come on.
In the UK, this is in the UK as well. It's not like we're in, some other country. So it looks like my Muslim friend is joining us. So, this is what's happening in the UK. Whether it's anti-Semitism or whatever the case is, you should have the freedom to say these things. So clearly, these things are happening here in the UK, and it's not just Muslims who are doing it. It's some Jews or whatever the case is, but it's supposedly the law in the UK. So let me just stop that for a moment. I'm going to see if I can send my Muslim friend has joined us here on thing, and I'm going to ask him to join us here. So just give me a moment. There we go. I've sent him the link. So hopefully he will join us in a moment.
Self-spamming was discussed at CMB. I was not very well informed. I'm right in saying that the Muhammad of the Seerah did not exist, oversimplification, and his claims about the...
Are you reading a comment?
But I thought CMB was dead. But then I don't understand. Why don't they come here? Please, if I am wrong about something, please inform me. Please let me know, because this is how I learn. I mean, keeping me in the not in the know and keeping me dumb does not help. I can make mistakes just like everybody else can. So if I'm making a mistake and there is something that I have said that is not correct, then update me, and I appreciate that. I'm not a bigot. I'm not sitting here on my throne and nobody can touch me. Absolutely not. I welcome anybody to. Have you ever admitted you're wrong? Yeah, millions of times.
So
My goodness.
well,
Of course I have.
I don't think there's anybody that hasn't, apart from a few dogmatic Muslims, but not all Muslims are like that. So again, I'm going to be clear. Not all Muslims are dogmatic and, have poor reasoning and logic, but certainly some of the ones we run into seems to have that. So while we're waiting for our fellow Fruitful discussion, I think his name is on the chat there to join us. Ah, there he is. Good evening, Fruitful. Hopefully you're not on VPN. Can you hear us?
Yes, I'll turn off the VPN. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, my good sir?
How are you, Rob? Can you hear me?
I'm very good. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, and my co-host stopped spamming, who's muted himself for the moment. So welcome to the show. As we chatted about, I'm going to
why did
go over to you himself? No, so that because he might have something going on in the background and so forth. So he mutes himself and then unmutes.
No. I didn't want to interfere. I just wanted to say good evening, hi, and I'll just leave it.
Yeah, he sometimes cuts himself off while he's talking. So yeah, good evening to you, and let's get straight into it if you're ready. And you're going to present to us some things.
This is a very big topic, Rob, and I underestimated the topic.
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm not expecting you to deliver 10 arguments, but if you can present, an argument that we can critique, and again, specifically for Allah. So as we talked about, I prefer you don't just give me a generic God. Just give me an argument for Allah, and hopefully you can back it up with something in the Quran that we can really have a look into, because generic arguments are often borrowed from philosophy and Christians and the philosophy of religion, etc. So, I mean, you can incorporate some of that, but I'm hoping you're going to get to and give us an argument for why Allah is the God that we should believe in. Yeah,
I'll be depending most on Rob. Is everything clear?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
I'll be depending on. I'll be drawing from a book because there is a very useful book here. It's in Arabic, but I don't think it has ever been translated. It speaks about many of those issues.
All right, so let's do one at a time and see how we get on.
Huh?
Let's do one at a time, see how we get on. Yes, refer to the book by all means. Obviously, give us the English, because virtually nobody that I'm aware of can speak Arabic.
Yes, I'll try to paraphrase what is in front of me as I'm speaking, and I did put some notes to go back to them. From what I understand, how I understand it, the Quran uses arguments. But it also draws attention to signs.
Signs.
And there is yes, yes,
signs, like a signpost.
Yes, like evidence. Ibn Taymiyyah he defended that God is not only known through. The easier way and the more direct way of knowing God is through the signs. Okay, rational arguments. There exist rational arguments in the Quran, but those come usually with the what they call 1 second. Just a second. Yes. He says that the knowledge of the Creator, it is for some people fitri, which means not intuitive, but it's like as if it is self-evident. It is not in need of lots of thought or contemplation. You see the point. Or it is that needs contemplation or needs like thinking according to the person. If the person is upon the fitrah, he will not need to go into any contemplation. He'll just be accepting God as he is born, as he is brought up. You see, he'll be knowing God's existence from when he is, from the moment he understands the world around him.
Okay, so
however,
is fitra one of the arguments that I can hear myself?
Yes, fitra is not a rational argument. Fitra is the state by which you know God without any need of rational argument.
Okay, but it's still an evidential claim, isn't it? It's something about the world in which we live, the I would say the natural world, but just say the world we live in. It's a claim about the world that we live in that we can investigate. Correct? It's not beyond the investigation that we can do as human beings, right?
Fitra is just when you speak with someone who has fitra, you don't need to go into rational arguments. You see my point? And
sure.
If I speak, for example,
I understand that point of arguments. They are going to claim that they've got an innate belief in a God, right? But
yes,
that claim itself,
yes.
Now that claim itself,
however, yes,
that claim itself, the one where they say I've got an innate belief in a God, that claim we can investigate, can't we? Because it's a claim about their state of mind and about the world that we live in. Correct?
Yes, yes.
So that we
Most
don't
people
arguments. And the question that I want to ask you, if you feel this is a strong argument, is the fitra claim falsifiable? Is there a way that we can falsify this claim?
Falsifiable, like you can.
In other words, if somebody makes a claim, in order for us to be able to have a rational discussion, the claim must either be able to be verified or falsified. Because if somebody makes an unfalsifiable claim, then we've got no way to investigate whether it's true.
Yes, I understand.
For example,
you can't, Rob, you can't convince a person who has lost his fitra. You can't convince him of the fitra.
No, I'm not asking that. What I am asking is, can we, if people make the claim, because let me step back a moment. Do you believe that every human being is born with this, or do you think it's only certain human beings?
I believe every human being is born in that natural state of tendency to accept God, but people get twisted. The fitra can get twisted by many influences, many external influences. For example, a Muslim, normally Muslims, who haven't been influenced by philosophy and other. In fact, even my point is that many are still upon this innate belief in God. So you don't need to go into convincing them about God's existence. You just build on that and you try to speak about other things.
Yeah, what I really want to know is, do you claim that everybody's got it innately and some people then lose it or they forget about it, or there's some reason why they
It can get twisted. It can get twisted. It can get very corrupted. And the person might no longer realize that God exists.
Sure. Okay.
This is what I'm.
Yeah.
So how do you? Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
yes.
if I could present to you, sorry.
How do we deal with people who don't have this fitra? You have to go back to rational arguments.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay. So that's a separate point, because at the moment, if I'm understanding you correctly, one of the rational arguments for Allah in particular is that people have this innate fitra, and it's not just certain people, it's everybody, although certain people will get it twisted or get corrupted, or whatever term you want to use, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So my question is it falsifiable? In other words, if I could produce for you a group of people that nowhere in their history have they ever talked about a supernatural God, would that falsify the claim for you?
Never spoke about a supernatural God.
Yes, if they have no, if there's a group of people on earth that have no history of ever speaking about or having an innate belief in a God, looking back in their entire history, would that falsify the claim for you?
If what we believe, Rob, is that this fitra can be influenced by external thing, can be influenced by external factors. So if a person were to grow up in like say a protective environment, and then he would reject God, a society that rejects God, although it is not influenced by philosophy and that kind of stuff, that would be I think that would be something that is counter to the fitrah. Do you see my point?
So it sounds to me like there's no evidence that I could bring you, because you are always going to claim that somehow it's been corrupted or whatever the case is. So there's no evidence I can bring.
Exactly. We can drop this.
I observe, Rob, I observe fitrah in people.
No, you haven't. Can we drop this? Can we go to the rational argument? This is getting nowhere, because we're talking about something that doesn't exist.
Please stop, please. I think this is important.
No, it's not important. It is definitely not important. It's a non-existent claim. You cannot falsify it. You cannot verify it. It's a claim. All you are doing, you are asserting something which doesn't exist, and that is stupid, because we cannot falsify it. So let's drop this and go straight to the.
Yes, we'll go into that. Yes, but I just want to tell Rob first, please, that I observe fitrah in people. How is that? When I speak to a non-Muslim about Islam, sometimes they just it's like they open their eyes for it's like their eyes are opened for a moment or two. They're like struck by what they hear. You see, I once spoke to a Hindu.
Okay, but
he was
Fruitful.
Yes,
that's not an argument, because I've spoken to Muslims or ex-Muslims, and they have seen the wisdom of not believing it. So I can claim, just as you have, that they don't have the fitrah, because I've seen the twinkle in their eye when they've suddenly woken up from the matrix.
Okay,
and people have believed that they were abducted.
I don't, Rob. I'm not here to convince you of the fitrah. Okay, please, Rob.
I understand that, my friend. I know that.
Yes, I'm not here to convince the fitrah.
I'm
only saying,
spoken to certain people, and you've seen a twinkle in their eye, and that's how you know that some people have the fitrah that aren't even Muslim.
Yeah. There are people who, there are Muslims who have lost the fitrah, and there are when you speak to them about the basics of Islam, they're struck sometimes with what they hear.
And there's been people who are not struck. So that's not an argument that it's true.
Okay, no problem. We just go into the rational argument.
I think let's move on to the rational arguments, because that's obviously what we wanted to do. I just wanted to see whether fitrah was one of the arguments you wanted to bring, because obviously what we want to do is have a rational argument for Allah in particular, so that we can then have a backwards and forwards discussion. So go ahead.
Allah stops. Allah, who is Allah? Allah is, we believe He is the God of Abraham. Okay, and how do we know Him? We know Him through His qualities and His attributes. So it's not like Allah is a different God. You are aware of that, aren't you?
What do you mean a different God? Compared to what?
He is the same God of Abraham, of Moses, of the Jewish prophets, and we believe of Jesus.
That's your claim. That's your claim. The Christians obviously don't believe that.
The Quran tells us to tell the Christians that the Bible tells them that our Lord and your Lord is one.
Okay, but what's the rational argument for Allah? Because now you've defined what you believe Allah to be. Good. Okay, cool. Yes. So what is the rational argument that that's true?
Yes. Okay. I brought some verses. First of all, it is clear to you now that the scripture, I claim that scripture is not just information. It also contains rational methods. which are supposed to lead people to believing in God. Okay?
Fruitful,
And there is
can
a
I
verse
ask you
in
a
the
question?
Yes.
Are you going to use the Quran to demonstrate that the Quran is the proof of God, using the Quran which says the God exists?
No, no. I am going to use, inshallah,
Okay,
I'll be
thank you.
using the rational methods mentioned in the Quran.
Okay, so go ahead. What's
The
your first?
rational argument.
I can bring it up on screen. So what's the first verse you want to start with?
Yes, okay. About creation, I don't want to go into this again, okay? There are other things, but just in case, just to make it like completely useful, and in case for the listeners, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we believe He says, or were they created by, he's speaking to the polytheists of Arabia. He's like scolding them. He says, or were they created by nothing? Or were they the creators of themselves? Or did they create the heavens and the earth? Rather, they are not certain. Or do they own the treasures of your Lord? Or are they in charge of them? Or have they a stairway into the heaven upon which they listen? Then let their listener produce a clear authority.
What
Now,
verse?
this is a rhetorical question. This is in At-Tur, chapter. Just a second.
Yeah, but this is just an argument from ignorance.
Just a second.
Let's let him make the
when I
top of the verse. Go ahead. What's the verse? And yeah.
Chapter 52, verse number 35.
52:35. Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Okay.
Okay.
So,
just for the people in the chat, we have invited Kevin a number of times. He has always threatened to totally annihilate us, and that's the last thing you hear of him. He will never come on the Jinn and Tonic show. He's always full of threats. We've tried it.
Okay, so I've got it up there. 52:35. Were they created by nothing, or were they themselves the creators?
Or were they the creators of themselves? Yes. This is a rhetorical question, okay, and it's of course based on the premise or the observation of temporal origination, okay. If one does not understand this temporal origination, the verse wouldn't make sense. But the Quran is speaking to people who already understand this, okay.
So it's not.
Stop, leave yourself unmuted because you're cutting yourself off, so I can't hear what you're saying.
Oh, okay. So it's not speaking to me.
Who is it speaking?
It's
polytheists, you said.
People who understand temporal origination. So if it is understood that things literally beginning to exist.
What is that?
Okay, I can go into it, but just give me a second. If it is understood that things literally begin to exist, it should also be understood that there is an act of creation. There is a creative action by which those things are brought into existence. You see, there must be an action to bring those things into existence. In just the same way as a person who is speaking, speech doesn't exist on its own. It must exist in a speaking person. The same way, if a thing begins to exist, there must be an action that brought it into existence. Yes. So there are two options here. The Quran presents two options. The first is that the act of creation exists in nothing. Okay, were they created by nothing? Like nothing created them. And this is impossible because an action does not subsist in nothing. The second is to claim that that the act of creation exists in the creatures themselves. Okay, and this is impossible just as well because an act of creation cannot be executed before the creature even existed. Do you follow me, Rob?
Yeah, carry on.
No.
Yes. So, what is the third option? It is that they exist because of a creator, one who brought them into existence.
Okay. Well, hang on a moment. So when you say a creator, I'm happy to accept, and you know it's widely known anyway. And I spoke to you before about this, that you know there's two forms of quote unquote. I don't so much like the word creation, but okay, design. Okay, we'll use the word. So teleological and teleonomic. And so if we were to go that route, and I were to accept every one of your premises and to use the language that you are using, then I can just simply say that the laws of physics have created me, stars, planets, etc. And so so are the laws of physics the creator? Are you happy to accept that from my point of view, the laws of physics are the creator that brought into existence me, stars, planets?
No. Why is that? Why is that, Rob? Because I believe I already explained to you that when I observe, what are existent things in my mind when I speak and when I say I believe in things, that things exist, I mean that there are only concrete things, tangible things. So the premise, I don't believe that there are laws of physics outside our minds. There is no like a universal law which exists in the real world. That is only our judgment. It has to do with our knowledge.
Okay, we have spoken about this before, and I think there's it seems to me on your side where you are suggesting that the laws of physics, as in there are physical laws out there. I'm not saying there are physical laws out there. I'm saying that the laws of physics refer to certain actions that are happening in the natural world that can over time bring about, quote unquote, the creation of tangible objects.
Yes. Okay. So yes, I understand this. I understand this. You are saying that, for example, I was created by some process by my father's action of begetting. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and going back.
Yes,
you are all the product of stars. The elements in the stars are what we are formed of. No stars, no human beings.
I understand, but the point is, I'll answer this inshallah. But the point is, Rob, that no one within the universe creates anything, literally brings anything into existence, which is the premise I am holding to be true. You see, so when I say that, let's say I am literally brought into existence by my father, I don't believe this. Why? Because my father is not a creator. You see.
Of course he is, by your own logic. Now you special pleading.
No, he is not literally bringing me into existence. He is an agent of begetting, for example. I believe in the actions of natural causes.
So Fruitful, in your worldview, who brought you into existence?
Literally, God brought me into existence.
How? How did God bring you into existence?
Creation. He created me.
How? Tell me how. How?
By his will and power.
How did he do that?
By his will and power, like he's a creator.
Okay, but
by acts of creation.
What was the process that he used to bring you into existence?
The natural process, you mean?
The process. I didn't say natural. You obviously claim that it's not natural. So what process to bring you into existence?
About natural process. The natural process it exists, but it is but no natural cause creates any natural effect. You see why? Because why is that? That's the question.
I'm asking you. You said that you are created by God and not by your father. I'm asking you, what is the process that God used to create you? I know the process that was used from a naturalistic point of view that created you, but you're claiming that that's not creation. You have a different idea of creation, and you're saying it's God. I'm asking, what is the process by which God created you?
I don't know. I don't know the let's say the actions of God. I can't study them. If that's what you're saying, I can't. I haven't seen God. I don't know. However, I know that there is a creator who brought me into existence. I know that from temporal origination, which I observe every day. Do you see my point?
No.
The natural causes, the natural processes, they are only the natural causes are intermediary causes by which God creates one thing out of another. You see, they are all under his control.
Okay, can you elaborate what the process is that is being used, that is being applied until the natural processes kick in?
What do you mean by this process? What do you mean by, are you speaking about the natural process or a process within God, let's say?
No, you are saying there are two types of processes. One is supernatural and one is natural. All right, that's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, put it that way.
Okay, so what is the supernatural one? Because I don't understand it.
God is an eternal being who is able to bring things into existence, one out of the other.
Okay, do you know what a process is? A process is not an attribute. A process is something where you say this, then this, then this, then this. There's a temporal element, and I am interested in understanding what you are trying to convey.
Yes, there is a temporal element within, and I wanted to get into this later when I come into will.
Why don't you do it now when we're here?
What is it?
Yeah, the reason why Stops is asking you to do it now, part of the reason is because at the moment it's just a claim. Your claim is that God brought you into existence, but you can't explain how that happened. You're just claiming that it does.
I can tell you why I believe that to be the case, Rob. I can tell you why I believe that to be the case.
Fruitful. Can I ask you? I don't know if there's a delay on your end, but let's Stops and I finish, and then you speak. We'll try not to interrupt you. We might do, but we'll do the best we can. But if you jump in before I finish the sentence, because there might be a delay on your side, then I can't explain it to you. So our understanding is that you are claiming that God is doing this process, which is like controlling the natural forces. And Stops was wanting to know, what is that process? Because at the moment it sounds like just an assertion that God is doing this, with no evidence and no rational argument that we can see so far.
Yes. Okay. I don't know the let's say the modality of how God is continuously acting on the world, but I do know that it is the case for reasons, for very reasons. Those reasons are.
How do you know this?
Yes, because I'm saying this over and over again. I see that I am literally originated, and so I must have an originator. But that originator cannot be that act of origination cannot be coming from another creature.
Why not?
Why not? Yes, this is the question that needs to be addressed. Yes.
No, but I first want to understand the process that you are claiming exists.
Because I observe literal temporal origination, literally things coming into existence.
In you, when you were created, you observed this.
I observe everything around me like this, and I know that I came to be this way. I'm not eternal.
Okay, I don't think you understand what I'm asking. If you are saying there is a process that we understand where we have the two gametes fusing and then creating a zygote, and this zygote then multiplies, this is what we understand in embryology. This is how a human being is created. We understand that. This is a natural process. We understand it from the beginning until the end. Now, what you are saying is that there is another process, and this is supernatural before we get to the natural processes of the gametes. What is that process?
The process is God's act of creation. It's God's act of creation. I know that things are created by God because I know that they are not created by other creatures.
Yeah, but this is not describing the process. You are just saying,
okay,
this is like doing magic.
Just so that I can get so we can get to an understanding. I see when you say that, for example, fire burns wood, for example. I don't view this as fire creating heat within, ash within, or something like, or the creating heat within wood, for example. I don't view it this way. I view it as an act of burning, it not as an act of creation. And this is exactly what God mentions all throughout the Quran. He says, do you see that which you emit? Did you create it, or are we the creators? So we beget, but we do not create. There is a difference between the two. The act of begetting subsists in the father and in the mother, but the act of creation of those actions are within God.
I'm sorry, this is gibberish. This is total gibberish. There is nothing that is making sense in what you are saying. Can't you explain the process? Can't you explain what is happening? Give me 3 steps or something.
I can explain to you why I believe this. Let me just explain, please.
All right, hang on. Before you do that, Fruitful, hang on 1 second. Let me just see if I can summarize it and tell me if I'm right or wrong. Because he's claiming that he cannot give us the process, okay, of how this happens from a supernatural point of view. So what he's doing is he's claiming that by using a rational argument, he can show that there is in fact a process. He just doesn't know what it is, and it cannot possibly be a natural process. That, if I'm understanding it correctly, that's his argument, which obviously we're waiting for the substantiation of that. Have I summarized it correctly?
Can you just repeat it quickly again, because the sound was a little choppy? I'm sorry.
Okay, so if I summarize it, you are claiming that you don't know the specific creation process that God uses, but you are claiming that there is a creation process that God uses, and the way you're going to argue for this is by claiming that it's impossible for creation to happen naturally. It can only happen by God, but you can't give us the process. But you are going to argue basically the impossibility of the contrary, i.e., that it's impossible for nature to create things. Is that? Am I summarizing?
They can happen naturally. Yes, they can happen naturally, but they are not created naturally.
Oh boy.
Okay, so
you see,
the problem I'm seeing.
Yes, they are caused naturally, because I believe there are actions within natural causes, but the act of creation is completely different.
Okay, so let's just clarify a couple of things here. So when Apple creates an iPhone in China, is that just a cause and effect, or is that a creation process according to you?
It's when Apple creates an iPhone, this is cause and effect.
So that is not a creation process according to you. So an iPhone, there was no iPhones prior to 85 or whatever. There was no such thing as a handset called an iPhone. At that point, an iPhone came into existence at some point along the line. Was that a creation process or not, according to you?
Not in the sense like as the Quran as I use it, as the Quran uses it. No, creation is to literally bring a thing into existence after it's non-existent.
Okay, but was an iPhone existent prior to 1985?
The materials of the iPhone, they were created before that.
Okay, so the materials have always existed.
No, the material was created out of something else. So the iPhone, the form of the iPhone began to exist. Let's say it began to exist at that Apple designing, manufacturing, whatever.
So is that
however,
not a creation process? Is that not a creation process according to you?
If you refer to the acts, the cause and effect that is it is the bringing the act of creation, bringing the act of manufacturing into existence is solely to God. So I believe that God is creating our actions. You see? I believe God creates
this is
our
word
actions.
salad.
No, this is not word salad. This is what we...
No. Can you do this step by step? Because come on, you're using words which if you string them behind each other, they don't make any sense. What is your point? Where are you going with this? I don't understand what you're trying to tell us.
What I'm saying is that the tree, let's take the example of the tree, okay? The tree, I observe it literally begins to exist out of the earth, okay? This tree has color, for example, it has motion, it has height, all these, it grows fruits. So these are actions within the tree. But when we say that God created
was it
the
created
tree,
or is it cause and effect?
Yes, it was created by God. And all of those actions subsisting in the tree, like the act of growing fruits, the act of, leaves growing, all those actions are created by God. You see? So we have this.
You must be able to describe this. If God plants a seed of a tree in the ground,
the seed, the earth causes the tree, but it does not create the tree.
Can a tree? Okay, hang on a second.
So what creates the tree?
God creates the tree.
Can God create a tree without seed?
By doing what? Sorry, Rob.
Go ahead. No,
okay.
You carry on.
What is it? Is it stops?
Okay, what does God do? We know that if you put a seed in the ground, you give it water and then eventually light and nutrients and everything, it grows. Okay, where is the beginning of this?
The beginning is an action subsisting in God, the act of creation. God has power, and then He wills to do something, and then that creature comes to be.
Okay, so there is no seed, and poof, out of nothing, suddenly a seed comes, and this seed is somehow blown into the ground, or what?
Yes, everything that happens to the seed is created by God. Do you see the point? No. Everything. Look, stops. We look at everything within the universe created because we observe everything coming into existence.
No. We're talking about a tree now. You said tree.
Yes. So the seed, what happened to the seed was also created. What happened to the...
Okay, but where the seed was created.
Yes.
Okay, we know where the seed comes from. We know what a blossom is. We know how the fertilization process works. We know how a seed is generated from out of a tree.
Natural causes. I don't deny natural causes. I believe in natural causality.
But we understand the process. Where in this process, where in this process that we understand, does God come in?
Yeah.
Where in this part?
God comes in the literal origination of those things and in the dependency of those things. Like if a thing is literally
this is gibberish again.
Okay, well, hang on.
No, we understand where the seed comes from.
If a thing is literally brought into existence, like it didn't exist and then it began to exist. If a thing literally,
we understand how that works.
Yes, it must have been brought into existence through some action of bringing it into existence.
Yes, a bee came around and fertilized it.
No, that is not the action. Why is that? Because that would, and this is what I wanted to address. That is because natural causes are not creators. Why are natural causes not creators? Because the infinite regress in creators is impossible.
Why is it?
This can be.
No, we're going. This is a red herring again. Show me in the process.
No,
show me in the seed process. Where does this God do what?
Everything. I'm telling you, stops. God is the creator of everything thing in existence in this in the world.
Okay.
Everything that happens.
Get it. This is...
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, your claim is that God is the creation of everything, because natural things can't create each other, because there would be an infinite regress. If you rewound the clock, you'd get to it would carry on where natural processes would have to keep creating, and that would be an infinite regress. It has to terminate somewhere, and that termination is God. Is that the point?
But not termination. No. I believe that God is above the universe, and that every day He creates one thing after another. He creates one thing every day. He is doing something.
Okay, are you basing this on your own view, or is this from even somebody or other?
No, this is the Qur'an. This is the verse in the Qur'an. كُلَّ يَوْمٍ هُوَ فِي شَأْنٍ. Every day He brings about a new matter. Every day He brings about a new matter. We don't believe.
We don't have any evidence. Fruitful. We don't have any. That's the claim.
Yes. Okay. Why? What is the evidence for that? What is the evidence for that? The evidence is in the verse. Were they created by nothing? You see, a creature, it cannot create itself. Stop. Please just mute yourself and let me speak. A creature cannot create itself. Okay?
Well, we don't know that for sure.
Two creatures cannot create themselves.
Okay, but I'm going to be charitable and assume that's the case.
100, a million of those creatures.
Okay, we can't both speak. I'm going to be charitable and assume that you are in fact correct. No creature can create itself. I don't know that that's the case, and neither do you throughout the universe. But let's assume that that's the case on Earth, that no creature can create itself, that a creature always has to give rise to another version of itself. Right, great. What now?
And even that is wrong.
Okay, cool.
Can you repeat what you said?
Okay, you correct me, Stops there. Go ahead. How would you present it?
Oh, okay. No, I've done this I've shown this several times.
Go ahead.
Where I've shown so many examples. One example is that you can take a clone and insert it into the womb of the mother, so she can create herself.
Well, she'd be creating something.
No, how can something create itself? Rob, are you saying that something can create itself?
I'm not. Stops is suggesting that.
No, it's me. I am saying that if you take a clone and implant it, you can't talk when I'm talking. Please let me finish. If you take a clone, implant it into the womb of the mother, then she is giving birth to herself.
Sorry, but the screen blacked for a moment. I didn't hear you. Oh, sorry.
If you take the DNA of a woman, generate a clone, and implant this clone into the womb of the woman, she is giving birth to herself.
Well, to be fair, Stops, that's quite a philosophical. Well, the little bit that I've read on that, there's a lot of controversy over whether that's even possible. Whether if you clone yourself, are you still you? It's a bit like the Star Trek. When you so when you
God is creating someone similar to you. That's how I understand it.
It would be a duplicate. I wouldn't say that it's still you, but we get deep philosophical ground there. But all right, stop. Let's be super charitable and assume that Fruitful's claim is true, is that no creature can create itself, i.e. an exact well, it would be a duplicate of itself anyway. It can't create itself. So what it could do is create another version, another version of itself. Okay, Fruitful. So go.
Yes, but I wouldn't say that anything can create another version of itself. Okay, but I would say that there can be natural causes by which a mother can give birth, for example, to something similar, but it wouldn't be creation.
Okay, in your mind, okay, hang on, but where in your so a mother can give birth to another human being. Where in your view does the creation process actually start then?
In everything. The mother was created. The actions subsisting in the mother are created. The act of birth is created. Everything is created. And
you're claiming that this is created by God?
Huh?
And you're claiming that God is doing all of this creation all over the world,
Yes,
the universe, all the time.
Every time. God is always, He's creator of everything. God is the creator of all things.
Okay, well, how do you demonstrate that's the case? Because from my point of view, all that's happening is natural processes using a cause and effect process is creating more things, creating as in sometimes teleologically, sometimes teleonomically.
The answer to this is very easy, Rob. A creature cannot create itself. Two creatures cannot create themselves.
I'm granting you that. I'm granting you that, Fruitful. How does that?
Yes.
How does that show that God
So
is
do you agree with
creating?
me, Rob? The larger the sum and the longer the chain, the greater the need for something to bring those into existence. Don't you agree with that?
No, not necessarily. Give me an argument.
So if you have one creature, and then you have, for example, 100 of those creatures, which of the two cases do you see is more impossible for it to exist by itself, like create itself?
Yeah, I don't understand that question. Let's wind it back a little bit here. Let's just wind it back, because would you agree that if we wind the clock back, if we could sit outside and watch the universe and wind the clock back in billions of years, we would get to a point where the atoms, from our point of view, apart from a soul, which we can't demonstrate to be the case, but the physical atoms that make up human beings, if we were to wind the clock back, we would see that they came from exploding stars. Because if we had no stars in the universe, science tells us there would be no human beings, because the heavy elements, the fusion of the heavy elements in the universe must come from stars. They were not around, and this is very well understood and accepted in cosmology. They were not around at the Big Bang. So carbon and other heavy elements, iron, etc., had to come from stars. Yep.
Yes, I understand that there are elements from the Earth. We observe them in the stars. We see like the redshift and all this.
No, not the redshift.
Sorry, the spectrum, the chemical spectrum. We know that there are the same.
Yeah, sure.
Rob, this is too much. Listen,
please, just.
You are saying we cannot create ourselves, but there's a creation process. If I go and I have sex with my wife, and I deposit my sperm into her womb, where there happens to be an ovum, an egg, and this fertilizes it, and from out of this, a new human being is created. Where in these steps does God come in?
In every action. God is creating every action. And everything.
When I'm having sex with my wife, God is peeping?
This is the red herring. This is a red herring.
Okay, let's put it more. I'll be slightly more charitable than Stops in a sense. When Stops is having sex with his wife, is God creating Stops' action, or has Stops got the free will to do that himself? Or how is God interfering in this action?
Yes, I wanted to go into this later. This is the issue of how do we reconcile God's acts of creation and determination, like He determines everything. How do we reconcile that with the fact that we have will?
Okay, that's a separate topic, and there's a paradox there that we could answer later.
We can go into it later.
Okay, but at this moment in time, you are claiming that it is related to the creation process of God. And so where in that process, with Stops and his wife, for example, where is God interfering, and how do we know that's the case?
Everything is created. Like, for example, I lift up my hand. How do I lift up my hand? I lift it up because there is I have power within me, and I have a will, a decision to lift up my hand, and thus the action of lifting up my hand occurs. But God is the one who created me. He created the power within me. He created my decision, and then He created the action which resulted from that power and that will, a decision. I mean, do you see the point?
That's what you claim. Okay, how can we verify that?
Okay, I'm explaining this. A creature, and don't laugh, Stops. Mute yourself if you're going to laugh. A creature cannot create itself. Okay?
Yep, got it.
So if you get more than one creature, if you get 100, 1,000, 1,000,000, those cannot create themselves. They cannot create themselves with greater reason. and the larger the sum of those creatures, the greater will be the need for the creator.
No, that doesn't.
So let's think of it this way: if you have an infinite chain of creators, that is what you are saying, aren't you, Rob? That is the reality for is being said.
Nope. I'm not claiming there's an infinite anything.
So what exactly are you claiming? Just so I can get the.
Well, I'm not making the claim. You're supposed to be making the claim, which is how
Yes.
you demonstrate that God's creation.
When I look at natural causes, okay. Yes, when I look at natural causes, I understand that they are not creators, because natural causes are themselves created. Okay, if we had an infinite chain of creators, you know, if one natural body cannot create itself, then the sum of those natural bodies cannot be created by a part of itself with greater reason.
Okay, why don't you tell that to Elon Musk? He created a factory with a lot of robots which are creating a car. So they were created and they in turn are creating. Now what?
Yeah, but stops. He's claiming that God is involved in all of those processes. It seems to me like it's an unfalsifiable claim. You're just claiming God is involved in every creation process.
Rob, it is falsifiable if you point out that the world is eternal. It is not temporarily originated. But none of us are eternal. We have a creator.
Okay.
So your argument is
going nowhere.
Because everything, as far as you believe in the universe, is temporal, therefore everything must have a creator. And not only must it have a creator, that creator is involved in every single process from the beginning of the universe until now and the future.
Yes, because
and not only that, it's this specific one.
Can I just get water? I need to drink water because I've been shouting for a long time. Just a second, okay?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm going to summarize as far as I can understand this. So as you said, Stops, the argument seems to be that everything is temporal within the universe, and therefore there must be a creator that originated this temporal creation process, if I've used the correct language. And not only that, this creator is involved in every single creation process at all times, from the beginning of, if there was a beginning, the beginning of the universe until whatever happens. And not only that, it's the specific creator. And the reason that Fruitful is saying it's a specific creator is because the Qur'an has got the specific verse in there. Therefore, we know from Fruitful's view, therefore we know it must be Allah. It couldn't have been any other God, because this verse specifically refers to this entire argument that Fruitful is making. Is that a fair summary?
I think it's a lot easier than that. I think what you need to say is simply that Fruitful thinks there is something missing in our universe, because our universe, he doesn't understand everything, and because he doesn't understand everything, he needs to insert magic somewhere. Booms, there's your God.
No,
it's just
I don't believe in
creation of the God in the mind, because there's something missing he doesn't understand.
No, Stops. I don't believe in God of the gaps.
Ah, you're back. Okay.
Yes, I don't believe in God of the gaps. I believe that God is the explanation for.
Oh, somebody's phone is nearby to their mic.
I'm sorry. Yes, I'll get away my phone. Where is my phone?
Could also be me.
I've got it. So.
Yes.
Rob, move your phones away from the mic there, guys. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, Rob. What was I saying? Allah, forgot.
Well, I gave a summary there, and Stop suggested that
you
didn't understand the process, and therefore you were inserting God, and you were saying no, that's not the case.
Yes, that's not the case. Why? Because I don't view God as an explanation of part of what I don't know about the universe. I'm saying that God is an explanation for everything within the universe. Everybody, like what. Perhaps you can go back and understand. What do you Stops? What do you claim exists in the world?
I don't make any claims. I'm just listening to you making a fool of yourself by saying that God is required everywhere. But you can't show us, you can't demonstrate it, you can't show us how we could possibly verify this, you can't show us how we could falsify it, you can't describe the process, you can't tell us where the process is, what it does, what the effect is, what the consequences are, what would happen if this process would not happen. You can't tell us anything about this. All you're doing is you're making a claim that there is the God. That's all you're doing.
Okay, fine. Okay. I don't what I believe is that the world consists of
I've lost you there. Just repeat that sentence. Just repeat that sentence. Fruitful, you've broken up there. Can you repeat that last 30 seconds? You broke up entirely. We did not hear a single word.
I'm sorry. I believe that the world consists of objects.
Yeah, okay, we believe that you believe. Fine.
Fruitful, you are breaking up there. We cannot hear a single word. The last we heard was you believe the universe is made up of objects. After that, it went ping pong, ping pong, ping. We didn't hear a single word. Is your internet connection breaking up there?
Seems like it.
Try and speak again. Okay, maybe it's gone now. I think hopefully I've summarized it accurately as far as I can tell. I mean, I want to summarize it as accurately as possible. I don't want to strawman the position. And so I think I've done that. I mean, I can repeat it again if necessary. What do you say there?
He says there's going to be a rational argument, and all he does is quote the Quran. And then he says, well, because we are in this planet, everything on this planet requires a God. And that's it. So
yeah, but so my understanding of his position stops, and obviously we can critique it, is that the rational position is the impossibility of the contrary. It is that he's got a different definition of creation, and the process of creation that he's talking about only God can do, no human can do it, and natural processes can't do it. And it's his specific God, and the reason we know it's his specific God is because the verse in the Quran is I'm paraphrasing. I'm going to summarize what I think he's saying is that that's a very accurate verse that summarizes this rational reductio ad absurdum type argument, which is that only God can do this, and that's because it says it in the Quran's verse. Therefore, the Quran is accurate.
Can you hear me, people?
There we go. We can hear you. Yes, you're in a separate connection there.
In stereo.
Just turn off one of them, whichever one's.
Yeah.
Okay, speak for us because you're dropping. Try speak now. Say something. We're not hearing you. No, we can't hear you. You've completely gone now. I heard you go, that's it.
No, you can't ask him whether he believes in evolution, because he will say evolution is just a natural process. But the guiding hand is required, and this guiding hand is the hand of Allah. And it must be his Allah, because there is no other Allah that is as good as his Allah, because that's what it says in the Quran. This is, I mean, it's exactly what Rob says. You can't validate it, and you can't refute it. You can't do anything with it, because it's something that you can't. Yeah, it's just an assertion. Okay. Well, I assert that there's a God, and this is the only one, and he's the God of Abraham, and we all know that, and we have the fitra, so we have to know this.
Well, to be fair, Stops, he's trying to use a reductio ad absurdum, that it's impossible for it to be any other way. But when I'm listening to him, obviously, he's redefining what he wants to call creation, and then asserting that God is the only person that can do this and is doing it all the time. And it's his specific one, because the verse is clear that we have to deduce from that verse that we had on screen, which I'll bring up again. We have to deduce that this is Allah. It's not just any generic God. It's not just the Christian God. It must be Allah because of this verse.
Rob, I believe that we all believe in this. It's the same God we're speaking about. He is the creator who is above the heavens. Like, what other God are they speaking about?
Obviously, Christians have got a different version, and Hindus and other people have got different versions of a God. But for you to claim that it's Allah, you are using this verse as your claim, correct?
Yes. Were they created by nothing, or were they the creators of themselves?
Yes, and you've now attempted to construct a rational, seemingly reductio ad absurdum type argument to from this, correct?
Yes, because we were not created, because the act of creation could not have existed in nothing, and this act of creation could not have existed in the creatures themselves. It must have existed in an uncreated being, a creator.
No, this is exactly the step we don't understand.
Yeah, and the reason why that we're having, Fruitful, the reason why we're having a problem with this is because you are redefining, or you are defining creation to mean what you want, and nobody else that I'm aware of, and point me to recent scholarly work, not tafsirs from 1,000 years ago. Point me to recent scholarly work that I can review that uses creation as you do, because I've listened to many advanced theologians and philosophers, and I've never heard somebody, as far as I can tell, and I could be wrong, so I am open to being wrong, but I've never heard somebody use creation in the way you have. So to my ear, you are redefining creation, and that's why Stops and I are having a big problem, apart from other things. But this is one of the problems I'm having with this whole creation. You are defining it in a certain way that it can only be Allah.
But just to be clear,
Yes,
we understand what you are saying. Okay, we understand your point. We understand your rationale. We understand what you are trying to bring across. We cannot follow it. That's it.
Okay. Rob, just try to understand what I'm saying. I am aware that there are many theologians. There are many theologians who don't understand what creation is. But that doesn't mean that the people who are born don't understand. You talk to a child. How does he understand God's existence? He tells you, "I saw this tree," and that tree is proof for God. You see the point?
No, I never did this. As a child, I never did this.
But also, Fruitful, when children say that, they lack the understanding of how that process happens. And when we explain it, then they go, now I understand that a tree was created from a seed that required some water and nutrients, etc. Now I understand how the tree was created. But you're going, no. God is involved in this process. And we are going, no. We see no evidence for God being involved in this tree creation process. We see natural process.
I'm absolutely certain. I have no doubt in my mind that the prophets who came before, like Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Isa, Jesus, peace be upon him, Moses, Abraham, all those prophets before, they all understood that there are causes. They didn't deny causes. But they also understood that God is the creator of everything.
Okay, Fruitful, can I ask you a slightly different question?
Yes, but just to make it short, just to drive this point home, as you say. I am aware that there are many theologians who do not understand what creation means. Okay, in fact, there are countless theologians. In fact, the word theologian, it comes after a person loses his fitrah. Do you see the point?
No. Theologians are normally people who are believers, whether it's Muslims or Christians, who try to put forward arguments to
yes. Why does a person need to put forth an argument? It is because he is in doubt.
Okay.
Correct.
All right.
Yes.
Can I ask something a little bit different? If your God is the creator of everything, do you believe that this, your creator, wrote the Quran itself?
I believe he has actions, and of those actions is speaking. He speaks to whomever he wills of his creation. I believe that.
Okay, is the Quran a product of this God?
The Quran is a speech of God, just like the Torah was written by God. It's the words of God. Yes.
Okay.
It is the
so
actual word.
Okay, if God spoke the Quran and said these actual words, why are there so many factual errors in the creation process? Why does he say mountains are set on top of the earth when this is completely wrong? Why are there so many mistakes in the Quran?
I don't see those mistakes. I honestly don't see those mistakes. If there is something I don't understand, I try to understand it, but there is actually nothing in my. I don't know of anything which doesn't make sense. Last time we spoke about the embryology, and I told you, I don't see anything in the Quran to not make sense to me. It makes, in fact.
Okay, are mountains set on top of the earth?
Are mountains set on top? Yes. Where are the mountains?
Do mountains grow bottom up or top down?
Stop. You're missing. Why did you? What made you leave Islam? I just want to know.
I didn't leave Islam.
You are not a Muslim.
No.
Okay. What
Definitely not mountains.
Huh?
I'm talking about mountains, not about me.
Yes.
You said there is nothing
wrong
in the Quran, and I am saying there is nothing that is correct. So one of the things that I maintain is a mistake in the Quran is where it says that mountains are set on top of the earth, where we know from the natural processes that mountains grow from the root up.
Rob, the Quran only says وَأَلْقَى فِي الْأَرْضِ رَوَاسِيَ. He dispersed on the earth. What's the word? Problem is I'm not good in translation, but you can read it, the translation.
It doesn't matter, but it's wrong.
It's not wrong because you see mountains. Don't you see mountains? And don't you understand that those mountains are on earth?
No, there's a lot of mountains under the water. We don't see them.
Where does it say that mountains are under the water?
What's the verse stops?
I'm telling you that there are mountains under the water.
Okay, so what is the okay, there are mountains on the earth and mountains under the water. What are you trying to say? Stop. Let's go back to the topic, please. Let's just go back to the topic.
This is the topic. Because I am saying, I'm asking you, if your God is okay, we can't talk at the same time. If you talk and I talk, nobody can hear anything.
Okay. What's your point?
So what you are saying is that God is involved all the time in creation. This is your claim. And now I am asking, if this God is involved in the creation, why does he make so many mistakes in bragging about it?
I don't believe there are mistakes. There is this verse.
I know that you don't believe that there are mistakes. And this is why I'm asking you, can you show me a mountain that is placed on top of the earth? Or is the mountain always growing from out of the earth?
I don't. Can you refer to the verse which is the place of which
no.
you contend?
Can you show me one single sentence in the Quran which says that mountains grow out of the earth?
Mountains grow out of the earth. Why? I don't understand.
In the Quran, a single sentence that says so.
Are you saying that the Quran says that and this is false?
I'm saying the Quran does not say that. It says the opposite, and that is false.
Okay, what is the opposite?
The opposite is that it's on top of the earth.
Mountains are on top of the earth.
I'm listening to
they grow from out of the earth. And in the Quran, it says that God put the mountains on top of the earth.
Well, there is no contradiction. I don't see the contradiction. I don't know how mountains are formed. Like, I understand there is like tectonic. There is like.
Okay. If you have a tree, does the tree get put on top of the earth, or does it grow from a seed from out of the earth?
It grows. Okay.
Sorry.
It grows. It grows.
It grows from out of the earth, right?
Okay, Rob, stop, just so that we can understand better. Okay, to approach the Quran, you have to know Arabic first, and then you have to know to speak I'm not saying that you can't understand the Quran because you're English. You can understand the Quran, and it is I believe it is a miracle in both its words, in its meanings, and in its wordings. But the way you're approaching this topic is not correct. I can't get to approach this topic this way.
Does it say that mountains grow from out of the earth?
Can you just stop this? I want to go back to the Rob, please. I want to go back to the original topic.
This is the topic. You are claiming. Do you want to repeat everything again?
No, I want to speak about something else now.
I just want to say, you've talked for 1.5 hours and you've given us nothing.
I don't know what to say.
Well, just give me the sentence in the Quran which says that mountains grow out of the earth. Easy.
Why are you looking for that verse?
Because, let me explain this for the 15th time. Are you listening now? Please, I'm not going to explain it again. I am talking about the topic of creation, where you claim that the God is required in this creation process. And I'm asking if this God is involved in creating everything. Why is he making so many mistakes?
I don't believe he is making mistakes, and I don't believe any person with an objective attitude will see that the Quran makes mistakes in this regard. The Quran is speaking about what you already.
I can show you hundreds of mistakes. I showed you a couple last time. I'm showing you one now. Can you show me a single sentence in the Quran?
I know what the say, but I'm not convinced by their methods. Why? Because they don't know what they're just picking. For example, the atheists, many atheists, they just pick and choose, and they start, hitting those like saying this is contradiction, and this, and it's not based on anything I see to be even. I don't know, and it's not even. It's not.
What does it have to do with atheists? This has nothing to do with atheists.
Yes.
I am not an atheist, so what has it got to do with me?
Rob, can you go back to the original topic? I want to go back to the original topic.
This is the original topic.
This has nothing to do with it.
You had 1.5 hours to talk to us about the original topic, and you managed nothing.
Yes.
Now I'm asking you, how come there are so many mistakes if your God is involved in the creation the way that you claim? Why are there so many mistakes in the creation process in the Quran? And you again,
there are no mistakes.
Answer.
There are no mistakes.
I think
Liberal, do you want to do something with this? But please don't go into hadith, okay? Stay on the Quran if you can.
Queers for Palestine. Hello, fellow infidels, and hello, Mr. Fruit. Yeah. So I was listening the last couple of minutes, and you have talked a little bit about existence of God first, right?
Okay.
And the next thing that you talked about, what was the recent thing that you guys talked about?
We're speaking about how we know God, how we know the eternal created being exists.
Yeah, and mountains. Yeah, okay. So that was basically some mistakes. So which one do you want me to comment on? Okay, so I'll do like this. I think that's quite beautiful because I think we have diversity of thought here. Because I have a world.
Let's stick to the topic. Let's stick to the topic of rational arguments. I want to respond to
so I have a world close to Mr. Fruit. I believe in a God. from a Christian worldview.
Good.
So I understand part of what he's saying. Maybe I would formulate it a little bit different. So it depends on what you guys want me to comment on.
Yes. Okay, I'll bring out the
science
second
to describe God. Because if you understand the scientific methods, it doesn't really it addresses things that you can repeat, replicate, measure, and God is basically something outside of that. It's basically before Big Bang. So you couldn't use scientific methods for that. You basically reflect and basically rewind the time, and then you can speak about different concepts. X created Big Bang. You can call that God if you want, which I do. Or B, you have infinite regression, which I think sounds irrational. Or C, I don't know. D, so you can speak about different concepts. So that's how I would approach it. I wouldn't use science, because science cannot really address that.
I'm not using science, Liberal. I'm not using science. I'm
Okay.
just saying that you should agree with me that God created trees out of the earth, and created trees out of the earth, and created us out of the earth, and all that stuff. So there is no need to get into any difference about these matters. We can discuss them later, the Big Bang and all those other things. Let's just stick to the topic.
I think what you're saying that because I think you have parallel conversations. What they are asking you is God active in every process, in creating a child, creating a tree?
Yes, I believe that. Yes,
I would describe it a little bit different. I would describe it like you have what do you call it in English? Basically a tree. Let me look it up. But yeah, you can say something. I just got to go to Google Translate.
Okay, let me ask it to you this way, Liberal, because he's making the claim. Okay, so here's the position as I understand, the summary as I understand. He's got a verse, which I think was 50. I can't remember.
Rob, I'm not saying that I believe in this because of the rational argument is not the scriptural argument. I believe I observe everything to be created by God because I see everything in the world to be temporarily originated. That's my point. It's a rational method. You see, that's how I see it.
Yeah, but what they are asking you if God is active on. Oh, sorry if I interrupted you.
Yes.
What they're asking you if God is active on each process, or is it like a seed? God basically created Big Bang, and then inside of that you had every ingredients, so man could create himself, through basically, the pregnancy process, and the gender is basically determined by if the man comes first, or So the question is God active on every step, or is it like a seed? That Big Bang actually includes everything. That is the question that they're asking you.
Yes. I believe that God is creator of everything and the maintainer of everything as long as it exists. So he created the earth. Okay, because we know the earth is created because it has a beginning. It was created out of something else. Okay, and we know the tree is created because it has a beginning. As long as the earth exists, and as long as the tree exists, God is continuously maintaining the tree and the earth.
So are you willing to say that this is a belief?
No, I claim that this is the only rationally acceptable thing to say.
But then we also have the X factor, right? That is, if something new is introduced or revealed that we did not have the access to, and we find out something new that can change the whole formula, right? Alternative A, God created, X created a Big Bang. Alternative B, infinite regression. Alternative C, we don't know. Alternative D is the thing that we don't know now, but we might know in 20 years. So are you willing to accept that what you have right now is a belief?
No, what I have right now is evidence-based belief.
Okay, we're not hearing the evidence though. That's the thing. You're making what you attempt to do.
Temporal origination of things within the world.
You see, Liberal. Yeah. The other thing that he's saying is the earth was created. We just heard him say that. He said a tree is created, but he's also saying that iPhones are not created or chairs are not created. So
no, Rob, sorry. I believe that everything is created, but the iPhone is not created by the manufacturer. It is manufactured by the manufacturer. When a carpenter makes a chair, he's not creating the chair.
Yeah, I think that might be a language barrier.
This magic trick with created. It's the word created. It's always the same thing. It's about one single word, and this word here is created, and that's what he's doing his magic around.
God is the creator. He brings everything into existence after it is non-existent. This is what creation is.
Yeah, You've got a very unique view on the word created that nobody else has got, that I'm aware of.
I am absolutely sure, Rob, I'm absolutely sure that Christians had this view at the time of Jesus.
Well, if liberals are Christian, let's see if he's got this view.
Yeah, I guess here, maybe you can tell me if I misrepresent your view. I think this is a language barrier. I think what he's saying is when you innovate new things, you just regroup, physics. So yeah. Is this what you mean? That basically you use what you already have and then you innovate? It's not that Allah actually go in and actually...
No.
Okay.
Stops. When I manufacture, liberal. When I manufacture an iPhone, I am bringing its materials together.
Yeah.
I'm not creating its materials. Yes. But God, I believe, is the author. Yes, God is the author of my actions and the resulting iPhone.
Yeah, maybe it's semantic, but you're creating something new.
Before the iPhone was gathered together.
Sure, but you're putting together something new that we didn't have before. So that's what we call you create something new. So it's just words, right?
Yeah.
I think
you're not creating. You are only arranging or
rearranging. Yeah.
Okay,
so that's what we call creating. It's just different words saying the same thing.
Yeah, but liberal. He just a moment ago said that God created the earth.
Yes.
But then when we say the seed created the tree, he goes, no, God created the tree as well.
That was my question before. Like, do you see it like, let's say Allah spoke, Big Bang happened, and then within that Big Bang, is it like a seed that, it already have all the ingredients that it could create itself? Maybe it was evolving, or like, what's your view? Or is Allah acting on each process?
No. Everything that happens is a direct consequence of God's will and power. You see, God is creator of absolutely everything.
How can we know that?
Because I'm saying this again. Because everything within the world, every part of the world, has a beginning in time.
Yeah, sorry, continue. Okay, I'll speak. So if you take away the Quran, would you still say the same thing?
If the Quran was not revealed, before the Quran was revealed, people understood this.
Yeah. But so I'll just want to know what comes from the Quran and what comes from something that anybody can, basically play out, and because this is thought experiment, right? Without the Quran, we can just speak about different concepts. So
yes, I'm speaking about yes. Okay, I understand.
You're saying, how do you know that the Quran told you? Is it something that you actually figure out yourself? That's my question.
The problem, you can know. There are many things. Liberal. There are many things we know through that. What does revelation do? What is the role of revelation? It is to guide people back in case they go wrong. No matter how intelligent you are, you look at the philosophers. We had very intelligent philosophers, but in our history, but they were always arguing and bickering. They never agreed on anything. So the role of revelation is to clarify and to correct people when they go wrong. That is how I see revelation.
And now people agree on everything.
People now nobody. You look at in philosophy and even the scientists themselves, they disagree. It's the nature.
Okay, you're saying people used to disagree, then the Quran came, and now they disagree. So.
No, I'm saying that the Quran is the measuring, and other revelations that came before the Quran. It is there to guide people. It is the guiding tool. It is the measuring, the measurement.
Why does the Quran make it worse?
Huh?
You said that people used to know this before revelation, and now they don't anymore. So the Quran made it worse.
This is what I wanted to go into, but you didn't let me go into it. When the Prophet ﷺ came to the polytheists, he didn't try to prove for them God's existence. That was already known to them. Okay, he was speaking with them on other things. Yani, I'll just give you an example. Yani, the Quran speaks about the Christians and the polytheists and the Jews and all different people. Okay, I'll give you this example. It's a verse which the Prophet ﷺ was commanded to. Yes. This is how do we know that God, for example, does not beget a son? Okay, can you hear me, Rob?
Yeah, we can hear you.
But the other gods did.
Yes, we believe, for example, that God did not beget a son. Okay, so the Prophet
just said it's the same God of Abraham. You just said it's the same God of Abraham. But the one God of Abraham has a son called Ezra. The other God of Abraham has Jesus. One God does not. And you're saying it's all the same God. So that doesn't make sense.
Yes. So what is the role of revelation? It is to correct those Jews and Christians where they went wrong. It is to bring them back to God. Okay? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says about the Christians who say that Jesus is God. For example, He says,
no, you're contradicting yourself. You just said before the Quran, before revelation, people knew exactly what was going on, and then the Quran came, and now they disagree.
Yes, not all people are on the same level. Some people know God's existence. Most people know God's existence at the time of the Prophet ﷺ.
But before revelation, they did.
They knew God's existence, yes. But there are rational arguments for the attributes of God, you see, which the Quran presents. For example, God is eternal and therefore He is independent. Okay? So what does God say to the
How do we test that? That's a claim.
Yes.
Can you show me how we can test this?
Rational arguments. How do we know that God is independent? That is the question.
Okay. Show me the test for
that God is. Huh? How do we know that God is
test this?
Yes, we know that God is independent because we know that He is eternal. Okay?
How do we test
that? Creator. How do we test the rational argument? You just listen to it and you try to understand. God says.
How do we test that this creator of yours is eternal?
I already told you.
We can't test it in empirical. Hang on a moment, Fruitful. Stops you. They're not going to be able to give you an empirical test. All he's going to do is attempt to give you a philosophical or a rational argument. There's no ways that he can give you some sort of test that you can follow to see if you can replicate it. That's not possible. And I don't think any theist is going to claim that they can do that. So they're going to say to you probably, and he hasn't said it yet, that your question is incorrectly phrased. He's going to say, hey, what I can do is give you a rational argument for why God is eternal, but I can't give you a physical test that you can do yourself or anybody else can do. But I can give you an argument that's very strong. That's what they would say.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, we have not seen God. Not yet.
No, it's not about seeing. This is not seeing. Okay, so your entire point is there's a rational argument which you call rational. It's not rational, but you're calling it rational. And you're saying because we don't have a reasonable explanation, which is God of the gaps, therefore we have a God who is required for all the creation. If we don't have this God, there is no creation, so nothing can exist. Yes. So what you are doing is exactly what Rob is absorbing. You're talking.
The premise is that things around us literally begin to exist. and I'm repeating this 100 times now. Things are
and you have never been able to show anything that begins to exist.
I already told you, Rob. Rob, have you seen the video?
Nothing begins to exist.
I am convinced that everything around me begins to exist. When I look at things around me,
okay, and you cannot demonstrate it. You are saying this again and again and again, and then when I give you examples or I ask you for something, you can't do it. But you continue to claim it. Why do you claim things you cannot substantiate?
Yes, okay. I can substantiate it. I don't know whether you understood the argument I presented last time or not. Would you like me to go into it again?
No, can't you do something else? Because last time you did not produce anything that began to exist.
Okay. So, my point is that if you don't want to listen to it, it's okay. Maybe one day you will understand it. You can check this. Rob, have you seen the video?
Which video?
The one I sent you.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yes. The last 2 minutes. Do you think?
I don't remember the last 2 minutes off the top of my head, but I did watch the video. We can play the video if that's helpful.
You can play the video. But the last, where was it? The last, yes, that would be excellent. Just a second. Last 3 minutes, I believe. It said it responds to, what is it?
Can you sum up the main points?
Yeah.
I think I can't sum it up better than I did in the video. The video is 15 minutes long. Just go to minutes number 11. The point is that, yes, minute number 12:03.
12:03. Okay. Well, let's humor it. It's 3 minutes. Let's humor that. So I'm going to share it here. Hopefully you guys can hear it. Just tell me. I'm going to share it on screen now. Present it to everybody.
But please, just a second, Rob. Rob?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, just so that they don't misunderstand what came before this point. Okay. The point I'm making is that God is the creator of one thing out of another. We don't have any evidence for anything created out of nothing. But this act of creation of one thing out of another is when God literally calls something to perish and change it and brings something totally new out of it into existence. And that this is the creation we observe every day. Okay.
It is in itself a direct proof that there is an originator.
No, it's not.
You are mistaken, Stephen. Everything around us literally begins to exist. And you will never find evidence that contradicts this matter. And what else do you expect when temporal origination is foundational for monotheism? Now, the scholar Ibn Taymiyyah expounded on the fact of creation along lines similar to those. Firstly, objects definitely exist. If they have infinite size, they will be undefined, which is absurd. But if they have no size, they will be intangible and non-existent, which is equally absurd. Thus, objects have definite size. Secondly, those objects are either 1. Composite and consist of smaller parts, or 2. Basic and not made up of anything smaller. Any composite object of given size, be it a tiny ant, a huge star or the world itself, will therefore consist of a finite number of basic parts. This is because if a composite object consists of an infinite number of parts, those parts must be extremely tiny to the extent of not having any size at all, and will therefore be non-existent, which is absurd. Conversely, only a finite number of parts may constitute an object. This is because if an infinite number of those parts are put side by side, the object will be infinitely extended and undefined, which is absurd. Thirdly, rearrangement presupposes the existence of parts. If an object is not made up of anything smaller, there will obviously be nothing to rearrange. From above, we conclude that the world consists of a finite number of basic parts, and that those parts have size and measure, but are nonetheless basic and do not rearrange because they are not made up of anything smaller. Now, Stephen claims that nothing within the world is literally brought into existence. He justifies his position by claiming that the world changes only by rearrangement. If Stephen's claim is true, the basic parts of this world must be unchanging. But if the basic parts of this world are subject to change, his claim must be false. Now, have you observed anything eternal? Unchanging? Point out 1. Everything is indeed a sign of God. Heaven and earth are a sign, the sun and the moon are a sign.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh boy. So what does this do? This is just full of assertions and nothing else.
No, it's okay. So I can't explain it more than this. Stops.
But this is bad. This is bad. This is really, really bad. Because what you are saying is something cannot be eternal, and therefore it must always have existed, or it can't have always existed, and therefore God is there.
Yes, because nothing is eternal. Whoa, can't you see that? Stops. If something is eternal,
it does not make sense. Where does the factor eternal come in?
Where does eternal come in? If something is with beginning, it must be created, and that created.
Why eternal?
Because if the creature is dependent on something which is created, then we will have an infinite regress of dependencies and creators. And I try to explain this. You cannot explain.
No,
you cannot.
We don't have this. No, this is wrong.
This is if you have an object which begins to exist, you have no way except
show me an object that begins to exist. We've done this. Look for fruit. We've done this. I've shown you. I've done this so many times with the water puddle. The water puddle has a certain reason why it is there, but from what point in time is it a water puddle? And there, if you go back, it goes back to the origin of the universe. That is where the beginning is of everything that we have in this universe. And that's it.
Okay, I understand. I don't see it this way. I don't see it this way. I don't believe in this.
I know that you don't see it this way. You make up, well, you're making up stuff because you want to put your God in there, and therefore you come up with this eternal thing, which is.
May I ask one thing, just so I understand? When you say origin of universe, are you speaking about Big Bang, or are you talking before that?
When I say everything within the universe.
Stop. When you say origin of universe, do you mean Big Bang?
Me?
Sorry,
no, the Big Bang is not the origin of.
Okay, what can you explain what you mean when you say origin of universe? I guess it was before that.
No, I can't. I don't know. I can't.
Okay, yeah, okay. I thought you had a clear concept.
Okay, I want to welcome in Why So Religious. He wanted to come and join us here, and maybe he can bring in another thing. So, I was going to say why.
Rob, please, just before I forget the topic. Okay, can I just read this verse? I wanted to read it, but I couldn't. I didn't have the time.
Go ahead.
Yes. The Prophet ﷺ, we believe he didn't come just to he came to guide people back to God, just like all prophets before him. Okay, and so one of those arguments he brought for the Christians is that the Christians claim that God that Jesus is God. And so the Prophet ﷺ read to them this verse. Okay, he says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, the Messiah, son of Mary, was not but a messenger. Other messengers have passed on before him, and his mother was a supporter of truth. They both used to eat food. Look how we make clear to them the signs. Then look how they are deluded. Say, do you worship besides God that which holds for you no power of harm or benefit, while it is God who is the hearing, the knowing? The meaning of this verse is that it's pointing out that Jesus was a man who needed food and drink, whereas God does not need anything. So you can see that it's the independence of God. That's the point is trying to make. Go ahead.
Okay, that's a separate point, though, Fruitful, and
Yes.
Christian theologians will challenge you on that, and we won't do it here now. And I've heard it.
Yes.
Because
I'm just
they
going to point
believe
out
that
that God is
Jesus has got a divine will and Jesus has got a human side, etc., etc. I'm not going to get into that. So that verse that you've done there will be quite thoroughly challenged by Christians claiming that Jesus has got two natures, a divine nature and a human nature. So it's not
Indeed.
Yeah, and liberal will obviously could argue that could be a separate argument that one can bring, but I think that's a separate discussion that one could have.
Yeah. Yes.
So, but getting back to your, based on the video there, I want to let Why So Religious come in, because he specifically, I think, wanted to come in at a point here to talk about that. Is that right, Why? Are you there? I think you're unmuted, Why, so you can speak if we're not hearing you.
By the way, can somebody explain to me in the video, is Stephen, because I don't know any Stephen in there, is that the guy who was doing the debunking video?
Yeah, that's Rationality Rules.
Because I didn't know his name, and I don't know why people refer to their other people by their names instead of, I don't.
Yeah, that's his name, yeah. Why So Religious, are you there? We can't hear you if you are. Speak at some point if you wish. And then we'll know you're there. At the moment, we cannot hear you.
Happened?
Hello?
There we go. Now I can hear you. Speak a bit louder.
Okay, sorry. So I'm at work again. I just wanted to call and
can't hear you. Try again.
All right. Can you? Hello?
No, you're very soft and you're breaking up.
Okay.
No, you're breaking up again. I heard the first couple of words and then it broke up, just like Fruitful was doing earlier. It goes like what?
Okay. Can you hear me yet?
I can hear you, but soft now. Just boost it and try again.
Okay. So essentially, what I wanted to say was towards the apologist, right?
Yeah.
The Muslim.
Yes.
I wanted to say. So, firstly, correction. You mentioned that you can't understand essentially the Quran without Arabic. I challenge you to give me one verse in the Quran that supports that claim. I just want to state that because if you're trying to use rationale and one of you have to know Arabic to understand the Quran.
No. I'm not saying that.
I want to hear that.
I said you can understand the Quran.
Because.
No, he's not making that claim. He's not making that claim.
I'm sorry?
He's not making that claim.
He did say it earlier, but he did state that earlier. He said that to understand the Quran, in the Quran that states that. And so that's the reason I want to ask that challenge of him, because that's what he stated. And another thing I would like to say here is I don't understand why it's considered rational that selective conversation of God would be considered rational, in the sense that when you look at Judaism, you look at the Bible, you look at the Quran, these are all the times that allegedly a God has spoken to humans, and everything inside of it is the only thing that they are allowed to believe. How is it rational when you think about if something was excluded or something was put in? How is it rational to say that that's all of the determined words?
Okay, but that's not the argument. Okay, but hang on. Why so religious? Neither of those questions are related to the main topic that he's talking about. If he made the claim that you've got to understand Arabic, he seems to be stepping back and saying, no, you can understand the English translation, and we can still have a rational argument based on the English translation. So I don't think, I mean, we could have that as a separate discussion as to whether the Quran says you've got to understand it in Arabic. I'm not aware that it does. So I'm not sure that that's a question for you to answer.
No, that's just, that's what he said. He said earlier that to understand the Quran, you must know Arabic. So that's what I was pointing to him. If that's what his statement was, his quote. So I was saying for him to provide the evidence of that claim. I mean, that wasn't really, that was just a side note.
Yeah, let's leave that aside. Let's leave that aside. It's a bit of a side note.
His whole debate about the concept that he's wanting to talk about this entire time, which is allegedly there's a Quran verse, or that there has to be a creator. Okay, there has to be a creator for the whole universe, and nothing can create itself. What I guess I haven't really heard anybody explain is that the concept of creation without a creator comes down to, as you said earlier, natural processes, but also such as chemistry. The concept of creating are already after the Big Bang, hydrogen all throughout the universe, and then condense cold through space, brings them together. They form stars. Stars explode, and then elements get shot out into space. And then later, what I guess also what hasn't really came across, you're explaining to him is it the Big Bang? He doesn't believe in the Big Bang. He believes that the earth and the universe were one together and then drove asunder, as the Quran says. And then he also says that the earth was formed by smoke. So I think that there's just a really big divide on what the communication here is. And,
I think you're bringing up a lot of different claims about what he's saying. The essence is, he will, I'm sure, and he can speak for himself in a moment, he will claim that the Big Bang is fine as a method, but God's done that, and since the Big Bang, God is intervening at every creation moment. Everything that he wants to call created, God is the author of that. That's his position.
Well, I would imagine, even if that is his position, that's not what the Qur'an, the Hadith, their position is. The Quran is very specific, and then after that, you're just getting into what would be apologetics of saying, oh, well, when it says that it was torn asunder, the earth was torn asunder from the universe, it really is the Big Bang. Well, no, that would mean that the earth was there before.
Why so? Why so? Why so? Why so?
Yes,
Yes. I don't. The verse you refer to about the splitting asunder, it's referring to the rain and the plants. Did not the disbelievers see? Do not the unbelievers see that أن السماوات والأرض كانتا رتقا ففتقناهما وجعلنا من الماء كل شيء حي. It is speaking about the rain which comes down on the earth, and then the earth springs to life. That is the
So you're denying that the Quran says that the universe and the earth were one, and then it was ripped asunder?
No, it's not. It doesn't mean that. In Arabic, it says it means أولم يرى الذين كفروا. Just a second. It speaks about this is I'm speaking about the original. Just a second. And as for the Big Bang, I believe that there was a beginning for this world, for the universe, but out of another universe, out of another heaven and earth were created.
All right, sorry, y'all. I have to actually get back to work, but that's what I wanted to call in. I apologize for interrupting you, but I would still like for you to state your claim that you said that Arabic, you have to understand Arabic to understand the Quran. Because if you're basing this off a rational debate of why God exists rationally, and one of your claims is that there's a verse in the Quran that you must know, but yet that helps prove your point, but yet you have to know Arabic. I would like for you to point out the point in the Quran where it says you have to know Arabic. Yes. Because then that would make it a rational point. I'm sorry, but I have to get back to work. Thank you for allowing me back on your chat.
Okay, cheerio.
Just so that I don't claim that you cannot understand the Quran if you're not an Arabic speaker. You can understand the Quran if you're given a translation.
Yeah.
But the problem, what I was dealing with, what I was speaking about, is that Stops is coming to these verses about the mountains. I don't believe that his approach is a correct approach. I, as an Arab speaker, I don't get to speak about the Quran this way because I'm not educated in Arabic.
I understand that. Fruitful.
Why did God use specific words? That's the point. Why did God use these specific?
I understand you are going to reject Stops' claims about the Quran being false, and you're going to claim that he either is not interpreting the verses correctly or that there's another interpretation or whatever the case is.
No. The correct, there are, we go back to the interpretations as we interpret the Quran by the Quran and then by the Hadith and then by the sayings of the pious predecessors, if there is any authentic, if there are authentic sayings, and then we interpret them by the Arabic language. But I'm in no position to speak about this. But I read from the tafsir, from the original, from the sources of from the big books of tafsir. I read to them, and I try to understand. That's my point. But I don't see anything.
Why don't you use the fractions? Because with the fractions, you don't need to.
Yeah. So again, okay. So we're diverting slightly in the sense that, well, in a way, we are. In a way, we're not. You're making a rational claim.
Rob, just a second. There are many things I wanted to speak about. I didn't even get through two. No. There are many things I wanted to speak about.
I know you did, and I didn't think we'd get through many of them. If all of them, there's very unlikely we're going to get through all of them. Stops' point is that you're claiming that you're making a rational argument for God, and part of that is looking at certain verses in the Quran. But Stops' point, although slightly on a sidetrack, but still is somewhat relevant, is that the Quran has got errors in it. Now, you are claiming the Quran does not have errors in it. And when Stops points out about the mountains and so on, you claim that's not true. However, there is this fractional...
Where do I rest my faith in that? That's a good question. Where do I rest my faith that the Quran has no contradictions? It is not that I'm very learned about the Quran.
Well, exactly.
It is because I know enough about the Quran to know that it is from God. Do you see the point? There's a difference.
No. Yeah, but Fruitful, that's just a faith claim. You can't.
No, but I have good reasons to believe in that.
Okay, but Fruitful, if I point out for you, Fruitful, if I point out for you an error in the Quran in terms of mathematics that does not, you can't say you have to read, well, we can read the tafsirs, but you can't say that it's an interpretation. If I point out a mathematical error, will you acknowledge that the Quran has got an error? Is mathematics good enough for you to accept that the Quran has got an error? Nothing about mountains or anything else.
If there were an error in the Quran, it wouldn't be from God. I know this, but I don't believe that there is an error in the Quran.
Okay, well, we
and
do.
Why I don't yes. I know you. I'm not a learned. Look, Rob. I'm not a scholar. I'm not a scholar. I don't know what like a mathematical error in terms of the inheritance.
Correct.
Okay. What if the Quran would say plus equals 6? Would you think that this is correct?
To tell you the truth, I cannot speak about it. No, I have to ask first and learn about this. I did memorize these verses, but I did not study them.
Okay, but can you not see the problem here, Faithful? On one hand, you're saying, hang on, I can't make an assessment on this because I've got to learn it or I've got to go and ask people. On the other hand, you say, hey, I know this book is from God with a little bit of knowledge that I have. To me, that's a contradictory statement.
Yes.
Could say is, hey, I believe that this book is from God, even though I don't know much about it and I've got to speak to scholars. But you can't say, I know this book is from God. And then when we want to ask you certain things, you go, no, I don't know enough about this. That's a contradictory claim. You can't say, I know the book is from God, but I don't know enough about it. Can you see there's a contradiction?
It's not even conceivable to me. To tell you the truth, it's not conceivable to me that the Quran can be false. And the reason is because
Fruitful
they're ready to put their life on the line. They were not like that. Those scholars were ready to put...
Okay, then what is the risk? What are you risking if all the people have already looked at this? All the people for the last 1,000 years have never found a mistake. What are you risking?
Fruitful, I muted you because you're talking over me and I cannot finish speaking. So give me a moment, then unmute yourself. Okay? And stop. So you said something. Sorry, you threw my train of thought off. So I'm not sure what your. I don't know what he's risking. The point is, you're saying you know that this Quran is from God, but yet at the same time you don't know enough about it to engage in some of the errors that we're going to point out to you, in specifically the inheritance error. And I'm saying to you that's a contradiction. You then further said that, hey, all these scholars have been learning this and they've always gone to the Quran. And my point is they've got a vested interest. These scholars are Islamic scholars that want the Quran to be true. So when they read it, if they see something that's not entirely exactly what they want, they find a way to make it true. So when we observe it from the outside, we look at this and we see people who are making up rules or making up things to try and make the Quran make sense. That's the point I'm making. And they've been doing this for 1400 years. Your point is, hey, they've been doing this for 1400 years. It cannot possibly be wrong. And we're saying, no, it has been, and it has been wrong for 1400 years. And the fact that some Muslims don't want to accept that it's wrong doesn't necessarily mean that it's not wrong. That's the point. Please unmute yourself and respond.
Yes. يعني, there are many things. You are implying many things in what you said. Okay. First of all, I don't see why that if the Quran, if I have good reasons to believe that the Quran is from God, and I don't understand much about the Quran, then I can't forsake what I know to be true. Okay.
Just don't use the word no. Use the word belief, because no requires justified or reliably produced true belief. So just say the word belief. But here's the point. Here's the bigger point. I understand that if you think, Fruitful, I understand that if you think the Quran is true and you've got no contrary evidence, then you're going to believe the Quran is true. If we bring you contrary evidence, i.e. we show you an error in the Quran, what would that mean to you?
Yes. I don't believe there is contradiction between the two. But you are putting me in a position, this is my point, you are putting me in a position where I have to speak about something I don't know. You have to ask someone who knows. I am sure there are...
You're not answering his question, my man. He's saying if he would show you evidence...
No, I'm answering the question. There is no contradiction. I don't
But you're not answering his question. I'm sorry, I'm going to intervene here. He said that if I could provide enough evidence that you would see this is a clear error, what would you do with it if you believe that this error is clear? That's his question.
I don't. If you want to, how can you bring in a clear error from something which comes from God? I don't see how that is possible.
If you would have it in front of you.
Yes, that is to say that if there were an error in the Quran, it would not be from God, because God does not make mistakes. Let's say, but the point is that. Rob, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes. As for the scholars you mentioned, Rob, it is not at all like you think. Muslim scholars are not as you think. There are, of course, people who are lifted in this, they look for gains, worldly gains. That is true. But I'm speaking about the early Muslims. They were not like that at all. The pious predecessors who came after them, they were not like that at all. They were put into severe. We believe that if a person is trying to please God, God will test him. Okay, so they're continuously under test. Do you know Ahmad ibn Hanbal? He was beaten in prison for 15 years.
What's your point about
he was beaten in here. Please, just let me continue.
Where are you going? Fruitful. You say you have rational arguments.
Yes,
but you say that you have rational arguments which provide evidence for the existence of a God. You have not managed a shred of evidence for the existence of your God. We, however, we have evidence that shows that the Quran is not from a God, and we can prove this 100% certain. There is no way that this book could have been written by a God, and yet I'm not finished yet. You are telling us that there is rational argumentation for the existence of a God, and you don't have it. However, we have the opposite. So what does that tell you? We have a disconnect here somewhere. You are trying something and can't provide it. We are saying we can do the opposite, and we do. So who is correct?
I don't have a problem. Okay, I don't have a problem in listening to what you have to say about the inheritance verse. Okay, but the problem is that I haven't studied it. Okay, and if I did study it, I'm absolutely sure that there is no contradiction. Why? Because I have good reasons to believe that the Quran is from God. So I cannot reject something I don't know, something I know for something that I don't know. How can I reject something I do know because of something I don't know?
Okay, Fruitful. The problem you have here is that is at the very least unreasonable, if not irrational. And I will explain to you why that's the case. You are saying to me, hey, I don't know what this verse is. You can explain it to me, but I have no reason to think that your explanation is going to show that it's an error. In fact, not only are you saying that, you are saying that, in fact, no matter what you explain to me, as in like me and Stops or anybody else, I'm going to reject it because this book is from God. So no matter what, it's starting with a very unreasonable, irrational position. You are already presuming that it is impossible for the Quran to have errors. And no matter what error we bring you, you will not accept it. Even if it's blatant, undeniable error, you will still not accept it. And I'm happy for you to go away and investigate it for the rest of your life, or ideally for another week. And we believe this is what's called in philosophy anyway, a knockdown error. In other words, there's no refutation or rebuttal that you can bring that can give an argument that is of sufficient strength to overcome our objection.
No, I don't say this. I'm saying that you will never find a contradiction in the Quran.
I'm saying that we have found one, and we can present it to you. And every Muslim that we've presented it to has not given us.
I understand that you claim that you have one. I claim that you don't have one. So we have to find a common ground so that we can understand and look at it. You see, to find this common ground, you need to go to the person who has knowledge about these things. You don't come to me.
Fruitful. Fruitful. The first thing we need to do is give you the verses, read them out. And then you can either assess them yourself now on the show. We can bring you the calculators. We can show you the videos, or you can go away and do more research if you so wish. Other Muslims have tried this already. I don't mind which way you do it, but we've got to give you the verses and tell you what we think the error is first in order for you then to evaluate.
You present the verses. I don't mind you present the verses.
So it's verse 411 and 412. Do we need 4176? I don't think we do. Do we, Stops?
The funny thing is that the Quran is intended for the Muslims. It is supposed to provide guidance, and a Muslim will look at the Quran and say, no, I'm not going to touch it. I'm not going to touch it. I need somebody else to tell me what it says. Even though the Quran is intended for the person, and the person is told to ponder and think and reflect over the Quran. And it doesn't say anywhere, go to the scholar and ask them what.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
So
411 and 412, those two verses read together. And I appreciate on the first reading, you might not understand it. Well, I could give you the Islamic calculator. Stops has done a wonderful video on this. The amounts that are explained there in certain circumstances, when you add them together based on those two verses, add up to more than 100% or more than 1 in terms of using fractions. This is impossible from a standard mathematical point of view. And if it is in fact impossible, and this is exactly what the Quran says, which we maintain it is, then there is a definite error in the Quran.
Okay, what are you saying? You're saying that you're trying to calculate the percentages and that they add up to more than 100%.
Correct. Under certain circumstances, certain people.
How did you calculate those percentages?
Sorry?
How did you calculate those percentages?
We read the verses, we put in a number of people, and we used Islamic calculators as well. And Stops has done it without Islamic calculators, with a nice video that shows it to you. And what happens is when you add it up under certain circumstances, when you have, I'm just going to give you one example. When you have, so a man dies, he leaves his wife, he leaves 3 daughters, he leaves his father and his mother. If you go and read those verses and you add those all together, that if you have that amount of family left over, the inheritance adds up to more than 100%. And this is obviously impossible. You cannot have more than 100% to give away as an inheritance. Would you agree? Let me just first make sure that we're on the same page. Would you agree that if in fact there is more than 100%, that's not possible in reality?
It is not possible to distribute more than 100%.
Yes, you agree that's impossible, correct?
Yes, of course. Yes.
Okay, good. Perfect. Okay, well, at least we're on that page. So it's a case of reading those two verses, and I've told you it, and I can bring it up on the screen here as well. And I know what the responses are. We've obviously gone into a couple of the responses. Some people have looked into the tafsirs. I haven't, but it makes no difference. The tafsirs basically agree with what the verses say anyway, which you can research yourself. But under certain circumstances, it adds up to more than 100%. Now, if in fact, I'm going to ask you a hypothetical, Fruitful. If in fact it's true what we are saying, that it does in fact in certain circumstances add up to more than 100%, and you can verify that yourself, what does that mean?
Yeah, I don't see how it can be possible to add up more than 100.
And it does add up to, what would that mean for you?
Well, I don't know. Really, I don't know. But I don't think it will. Why? Because
no. If
yeah.
It's.
I just want to know what your process is. I know you're denying it outright when you haven't actually gone through it. I understand you're trying to deny it, but I'm asking you if it's in fact true.
As I understand, you know, there are Rob, there are no. I really don't know what to say. I don't know.
No, I know you keep repeating that.
Brainwashing is a one.
Why? I accept that you cannot distribute more than 100%.
Great. That's great. At least that's a first step. And I'm suggesting
mathematically impossible. It is impossible.
Correct.
Yes.
And it's true that that's in fact under certain circumstances what the Quran says as a Muslim, and you could confirm this yourself if you are honest, and you can do whatever research you need. If you can confirm this yourself as a Muslim, what would that mean to you? I'm asking you a hypothetical. I'm not asking you whether it's true. I'm asking if it were true, what would it mean to you as a Muslim?
I really haven't studied this topic to understand what it would mean to me. I don't know. But I know that the Quran has no contradictions.
If there were an error in the Quran, if there were one, and you could confirm there was an error, what would that mean for you as a Muslim?
If there were an error in the Quran, then it wouldn't be from God.
Okay, great.
Because God makes no errors. But what you're telling me that is this. I haven't thought about 100%, more than 100%, or that kind of stuff. But I'm not sure that taking the I'm not sure that this would be. I'm not sure how the what type of error would be meant by looking at this. But I would like to listen to your objection.
I think we've stopped. Do you want to share screen, or I can do it? Well, you can't do it. So what we're claiming, and I've said it to you, and I'll bring it up on screen so you can see it, because when you just read the verse, you go, oh, this looks.
Yes. Okay. Sorry.
I'm going to bring this up for you so that you can in fact see it yourself, and I'm going to put it in on screen for you. But please, by all means, and I don't expect you to take my word or Stop's word. This is a serious case. The claim has been made that we believe that you believe there is no errors. One of us is wrong. We can't both be correct, right? One of us is wrong. This is a dichotomy. You're right, or we are right. We can't both be right, and we both can't be wrong. It's one or the other.
Yes.
Right. So here is, and I'll pop it in the chat here. Here's one. I mean, you can go do your own research. Maybe I'm just making this up. Maybe this is not an Islamic calculator. Maybe this is some Islamophobic science or whatever other claim that people have made.
Are you basing it on an Islamic calculator, or are you basing it on jurisprudence?
I'm basing it on what it says in the Quran, and this Islamic calculator models the Quran exactly, and you can put in the number of people left in inheritance.
Trust me, Rob, this is not how I would even care to. I wouldn't even look at a calculator. I would study it from the jurisprudence point of view. I would study it from what the legal scholars said, how it is to be carried out. It's not studied from a calculator.
So you're not going to read the verses and understand from a mathematical point of view what the verses say.
There are verses in the Quran. To understand the verses in the Quran, you have to understand them by the Quran, then by the Hadith, authentic Hadith.
Fruitful, you don't need to do that with these verses. You do not need to do that with these verses. These are plain verses that give you mathematical numbers.
No, not necessarily. There are hadiths about inheritance. There are entire.
If a hadith contradicts the Quran, what do we do?
I'm telling you, we believe we have this. We have a rule. Hadith never contradicts the Quran. If there seems to be a contradiction, and I tried to say that last time, if there seems to be a contradiction, then that is either because, not that there is a contradiction, if there seems to be a contradiction, then either it is because we have misunderstood the text, the hadith, or because our reasons that we have are not correct reasons. They're not to do with correct reason, with the intellect.
Or Fruitful, a third option. The Quran is in error. That's the third option. And you cannot just negate that option because it suits you. That's a third option that would be rational option.
That would be an option. That is a rational option to consider. But if you have overwhelming evidence,
we do have overwhelming evidence.
Look, I understand what you're saying. You're saying that reason. What is the role of reason in the Quran? That is what.
No, I'm not saying the role of reason. I'm saying we have overwhelming evidence that we have an error in these two verses in the Quran, and the only way that scholars can get around this is by reducing the portions, which is not what it says in the Quran. So either we take the Quran.
Look, this is hadith. This is according to the Sunnah and according to the Quran. So this calculator was created by scholars using the Quran and the Sunnah.
Yes, okay. But there are even differences of opinion about these inheritance laws.
Okay, the question is the Quran correct or is the Quran not correct? Now, does it depend on the opinion of a scholar whether the Quran is correct?
No, but you have to understand it through the hadiths, authentic hadiths. And scholars can differ according to what hadiths are authentic and what are not.
What does that say about the book?
And this is why you have different streams, you have different madhabs which are being asked in this calculator. So in the video that I made, I show that you can have Hanbali or Shafi or whatever. You can go into the different fiqh to go and cater exactly for the differences of opinion. But they all say the same thing. What is different is the way that a surplus is being handled. Who gets it? Who is it distributed to? Who are the recipients? In what order? Those things differ, but the numbers don't differ. This is why I said this is mathematical. This is why I asked you, if it says 2 + 2 = 5, would that be a mistake? Can you get the hadith to rectify the Quran saying 2 + 2 is 5? Can you do that?
The Quran, I don't believe it's. The Quran is in line with those, with mathematical, with logical premise. It's in line with these things. But go ahead, just tell me what you have. I have to look at it later. But I don't believe. May Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, increase me in knowledge. But I don't really. It's not. I don't think I should.
It's very easy. Try and prove us wrong. All you need to do is prove us wrong. It's
not my job, Stops. It's not my job. My job is to say what I know. If I didn't study something, how can I tell you?
Go and read 16:125. Your God disagrees.
If we bring you something, is it not your duty as a Muslim to look into the claims that are being made against your book?
It is my duty as a Muslim to do what is obligated upon me.
Is that not is one of the obligations not to reflect on the Quran? And if somebody brings you something which you think is problematic, or which they claim is problematic rather, Is it not incumbent upon you to look into that, or are you just going to deny it without ever trying to investigate it?
No, no, I don't deny it. I would say I don't understand it. I would say I don't understand it.
You should understand it. If in fact something's brought to your attention, do you think as a Muslim you should investigate it?
No person will understand everything in the Quran, Rob. There are many people, scholars.
Fruitful, please do not misrepresent me. I didn't say you have to understand everything in the Quran. I said if somebody brings something specific to you, is it incumbent upon you to try and understand what it is that's being brought to you? I'm not saying you have to go and learn the entire Quran in your whole life. If I'm bringing you 1-2 verses here, do you think it's a duty of you as a Muslim to go and look into these verses to see whether in fact we are correct that there's an error or not?
I wouldn't look at it with doubt that it is. I wouldn't doubt that it is from God, but it's
know that you won't doubt that. I'm not asking whether you doubt it. I know that you claim that you've got no doubt.
It is an obligation upon Muslims to what we call kashfish, to refute anyone who says, to refute them with knowledge to refute people who who claim that there are contradictions. But I'm saying that it's not necessarily my duty because I don't have the knowledge. You see the point?
Can you go look up to find it out for yourself, or can you read it yourself? Or are you just going to deny it and never look at these verses again?
I don't deny it. I don't deny what if I don't understand something, I won't deny that I don't understand it.
Can you do mathematics though? Can you do basic fractional mathematics? Did you learn that?
I can do.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. Okay, now on the screen, I don't know if you can see it. Stops has got it here, but I'm going to just quickly do it. I know you're going to deny this Islamic calculator, which, as Stops says, is based on the Quran.
I didn't deny it, Rob. I just said that I wouldn't look at a calculator to learn my religion.
I'm suggesting that you should look at a calculator because it will help you to understand something. You don't have to take it as gospel. I'm not saying take this calculator and now your entire worldview becomes an ex-Muslim.
I can look at anything which is, for example, aiding me in this.
Great. Well, this is an aid. I'm not saying this is the be-all and end-all. This is an aid. Stops his video is another aid. I'm not saying to you stop being a Muslim tomorrow because I'm putting in 5 numbers here. They're adding up to more than 100%, which you'll see in a minute. Go and investigate it. But this is an aid because if you read the verses yourself, and you go and put these in, you will see it. Or if you go and make your own calculations, because you don't need a scholar. That's the whole point with this. You do not require scholarly input into this just to add these up. What you can go to the scholars for is to find out, well, how did they interpret this? Because there's a clear error. How do they get around this error? And there will be answers to this. Clearly, there's answers to this. Of course, we see totally inadequate.
Rob, if there was something that was bothering me, it wouldn't be this.
I know, because this has never come up to you before, and now I'm bringing into your awareness that should bother you after tonight. Now, whether you're intellectually honest enough to be bothered, that I can't say. But you should be bothered. When you leave this call tonight, you should be bothered. If you don't come back to me and go, Rob, I've solved this, then I don't think that you are intellectually honest to yourself. Forget about me. You're not intellectually honest to yourself.
I haven't studied the topic, and I can't give an opinion about this. I can't give an opinion.
Are you going to go and study this very small topic yourself after this?
I will study it one day. I hope. It's my intention to study these things. I hope. But I don't believe that that this. And I'm not like some people. They tell me, well, you have to learn what the critics say so that you can learn more and more. That's not how you do it. That's not how we do it. We begin with basics, then we go on to more higher levels. We don't begin with inheritance. Inheritance is like one of the most. It's like one of the most. If a person knows inheritance, he will be like a very big scholar.
No, he doesn't have to be. You can read the verses yourself.
And the hadiths of the inheritance and all that stuff. That's for the scholars. It's not.
Stop abdicating your responsibility.
Hang on. Fruit. What do you think is going to happen? This is according to the Quran. This is according to the Sunnah. So all the fiqh has been introduced into this calculator. So what do you think will happen if you put one wife, 3 daughters, 1 father and mother in here? What do you think the result will be? Do you think this is going to add up to 100%?
I don't know anything about whether the calculator is correct. I don't know anything about whether the calculator isn't. I don't know anything about this. I swear I don't know anything about this.
What you can see here immediately is, okay, just listen for 2 seconds. If you look at the verse in the Quran, how much, what is the fraction the wife should get?
Wife should get, if she has
interpretation, you like the Hanali and Khan version, correct?
What is it?
You like the Halali, I think it is, and Khan. That's your.
I don't read it in English, actually. I don't know Hilali and Khan, but I have like my own books in Arabic, but I don't know in.
Okay, if you go to 412, what does it say? How much the wife should get?
Okay, 412. The wife, I think verse says.
Rob, you can click on the Arabic translation on the left.
The verse says.
Yeah, but he's reading something else.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm trying to remember it. What's the verse?
Okay, 412.
412. Quran.
Chapter 4, sentence 12.
You have it? Yes. Okay. We don't have it yet. Okay. 412. Surah An-Nisa. You know, I don't like this approach because I really I'm sinking to a level where I have to speak about something I don't know at all. I'm not even speaking about.
What does the Quran say? How much the woman should inherit? How much should the wife inherit if she has a child?
ولكم نصف ما ترك أزواجكم لهن ولد فإن كان لهن ولد فلكم الربع مما تركنا من بعد وصية يوصين بها أو دين ولهن الربع مما تركتم إن لم يكن لكم ولد فإن كان لكم ولد فلهن الثمن مما تركتم. If they have, if you have a child, they will have an eighth of what you left.
We said that they have 3 daughters. So does that mean they have a child?
They should have, of course. Okay.
Okay, so if they have 3 daughters, there is a child, and so the wife should get an eighth. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, now go back to the calculator and tell me why in the calculator it doesn't say that the wife gets 1/8, but it says 1/9.
Can you show me the picture?
It's on screen.
I don't know. I didn't even program this calculator, but you tell me what it says. Can you show me the screen?
Yes, it's on the screen.
Yes. So, yes. Okay. What does it say? It says relative category share fraction. It's 1/9. Okay.
1/9. Why do you think this is?
Okay, it should get 1/8.
Okay. If you go down to the bottom, it explains why it says 1/9. Can you read the calculation steps?
See, I made now a mistake. You see, because I didn't study this topic.
No, you don't need to. We're doing this slowly, step by step, so that a brainwashed brain can follow. The wife gets the prescribed share of 1/8, and this is rule 2b. Do you see that?
Rule 2b. Where is rule 2b? Okay, yes, wife gets the prescribed share of 1/8.
This is in the fiqh.
Yes, that is correct. Yes.
So if the deceased has offspring, the wife gets 1/8. That is the rule from the Quran, correct? Okay.
Yes.
If you go now to the next line, can you go back, Rob? If you go back to the next line, it says the daughter gets 2/3. The mother gets the prescribed of 1/8. And now the problem is the total shares have exceeded 100%. So the shares need to be reduced proportionally.
Okay.
Because
the shares
there's a
have
mistake
exceeded
in the
100%.
Quran.
You have the wife gets 1/9, the daughter has 16 out of 27 parts, the father gets 4 out of 27 parts, the mother gets 4 out of 27 parts. Okay, and that exceeds.
Yes.
What does it exceed?
No,
How much is that?
When what you just said there now, that doesn't exceed 100%. That adds up to 100%, but that is not what the Quran said. So in other words, the reason Stops is asking, why does she get 1/9 and why does the daughter get 16/27, which is not 2/3? And the reason why they do not get the prescribed amount in the Quran is because, as Stops said, it adds up to more than 100%. So in order to make it 100%, they have to reduce the shares to 1/9 or 16/27, which is not what the Quran says.
Yes. Okay. Why do they have to reduce those? Because they are above 100%.
Correct. You see,
Correct.
you understand this. Yes.
Yes. Okay. I understand that there are levels. There is like, I don't like to speak about what I don't know, but there are levels. There's like, you start, I think, with there is sons, then a father. I don't know how it's, there is a level.
Yeah, but Fruitful, you don't need to complicate it.
The Quran says, the way that it said here, wife gets the prescribed share of 1/8. That's what the Quran says. But it doesn't work because it goes above 100%, because there's a mistake in the Quran. And that's why humans have to go and reduce this proportionally.
A second, the Quran, but I haven't looked at it. But look, there is a law. I think it was.
Is this a human-made law?
No, it is. Of course, it is taken from the Quran and the Sunnah. The Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned things about inheritance. Just a second.
Okay, can he contradict the Quran?
He does not contradict. He explains the Quran.
Okay, great. So if the Quran says the wife should get 1/8, how can anybody explain this and change this to 1/9?
I don't really know. I have no idea. I have no idea about this stuff. I'm just trying to see.
Fruitful. Okay. Do you think it would be? Would you like to? I'm not going to. You don't have to do anything, obviously. Would you like to investigate this over this next week and come back to us next Friday and give us what you think is a response that you are happy with, that we can then have?
I don't have enough knowledge to do that, Rob. I'm sorry about that. But I don't have enough knowledge to do that. I swear I don't have enough.
Is there not something that you can investigate to gain the knowledge? Speak to scholars.
But there are other things. There are other things which are more important for me to. It's not that I have to jump to bigger things when I haven't even studied the basics. You see, I can't do that. I have to take it step by step. My intention here was to speak about why I believe God exists. To look at the rational arguments within the Quran for God's existence and His attributes. That I know because I'm interested in this topics which atheists speak about concerning God's existence and those things. But when you come to topics like these things, contradiction between reason and revelation, that stuff, I'm not a scholar. I'm not a scholar at all.
I understand. So here's my thing. I understand you seem to enjoy, or you for whatever reason like the rational or logical arguments, and yet your entire ideology, your worldview,
I feel that it is far more. Yes, continue.
Your entire ideology, your worldview, everything you believe is based on this book, and we are now actually bringing you something that is pretty serious challenge to your worldview, because your worldview says that this book is the perfect recitation or recitation from God, and we are bringing you an error. To me, this is just me. Obviously, you are you. To me, I'm going to drop everything else, because now here's a couple of guys that have made a very strong claim that they believe with a great deal of certainty is an error in the Quran. Your view is that the Quran has got 0 errors in it. If I was a Muslim and somebody did this to me, immediately the first thing I'm going to do is, I like these other arguments that I can bring to atheists, but holy crap, somebody has now brought me an error that they think is really true. I'm going to stop everything else because this is
I don't even view it this way. I swear to God.
No, you don't. I know you don't. And I'm questioning your priorities when you are claiming that you
I'm not able to explain why I'm trying to. Maybe I'm not explaining well why I'm taking this to be, why I believe what I believe. Maybe I'm not explaining it well. But يعني there are when you look at the very verses I read in the Quran, I believe they are signs of God. So you're telling me when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says يُوصِيكُمُ اللَّهُ فِي أَوْلَادِكُم, these verses they can't come from a human being. I don't believe they do. And the Prophet ﷺ did not make up the Quran. That to me is very clear. So I don't
I understand that that's your belief. And repeating that multiple times, I understood the first time you said it about 2 hours ago. I understood that that's what you believe, that it couldn't possibly have come from man, that this is entirely from God. I understood that the very first time you said it. And repeating that multiple times to me doesn't constitute an argument or a rebuttal or a response.
Why do I believe the Quran is from God?
You constantly
repeat.
Why do I
believe the Quran is from God? Why do I believe the Quran is from God? That is another topic.
Do you believe the Quran is from God because it contains no errors? Is that one of the reasons?
I believe it is one of the reasons, yes.
Right.
The Quran,
there you go.
Would have found much contradiction.
Correct. It says so in the Quran. Great. And if there were one, and that's the hypothetical that we've been asking about, then it would not have been from Allah. If there was one mistake in there, we only need one. We don't need 10 or 15 or 1,000. We just need one undeniable mistake. If there were one, as you quite rightly admitted, if there were one, then it would not be from Allah. Now, we are presenting one that we think is very strong here, that there isn't an argument that you can get out of or use interpretations or the scholars, because the scholars are going to agree that what is said in the Quran is said in the Quran. They are then, as Stops has pointed out, and we've shown you, are then going to use methodology to reduce the portions, which is to correct this error. Now, if I was a Muslim, I would be going, holy crap, this is important to me because my whole worldview says the Quran has no errors. Now these guys that are not Muslims are pointing out an error, and they are showing me what the scholars are saying, which is that the scholars are correcting the Quran. I better investigate this, because if this is true, I shouldn't be a Muslim.
I don't trust my faith in this. I don't trust my faith.
You don't rest your faith in the inerrancy of the Quran.
I accept that the Quran, if it were from other than God, there would have been in it much contradiction.
If there was one contradiction, it would be not from God, correct?
Yes, but I don't believe there are contradictions. If I found a contradiction, that if I knew that there were a contradiction, I cannot. If I knew, were I to know that there is a contradiction, then I cannot believe. I cannot be knowing that it is from God, because I believe God does not make mistakes. But I don't believe that there are contradictions.
And I'm presenting you one, and I'm asking you to investigate this and then come back and tell us whether you think that this error is true or not, and what your reasons are for it.
I'll try to investigate it, inshallah. But I don't believe that I should have done this. I should do this, actually.
You don't think you should investigate whether there's an error in the Quran?
It is not my duty. It is the duty of those who have knowledge about these things to speak about these things. As for me, I have to learn first. Okay, this is what I'm saying. But the reasons I believe in the Quran to be from God, the Quran is a very when you please, Rob, just let me read out these verses, just so that you understand.
I understand. You are repeating yourself, and I understand you believe the Quran is from God, and you're going to read me verses that you think corroborate your belief. I'm presenting you with two verses that are in contradiction to your belief.
I don't believe that there is any form of faith which is not based on knowledge. There has to be some type of knowledge.
Yeah, well, then you wouldn't call it faith. Then you'd say, I know something, or I believe it. You don't. The word faith is when you say I believe something and I haven't got knowledge on a topic, then you use the word faith. So let's not confuse.
Yes, but faith in how we use it in Arabic is we use the word iman, which means we translate it as faith. When I say ana mu'min, I believe in the Quran, means that I have knowledge, and I'm implementing what I'm trying to follow God's commands. You see, that means.
I would encourage you, you know, because you seem to like the rationality arguments, and so this is your but you know, apart from the error, which I think you really should look into. But hey, you do whatever you want to do. Even that, you seem to like the philosophical side of this as well, the rational argument. But when I hear it tells me,
yes,
when you speak, it tells me that you are confused about what the word knowledge means. If you go look it up in philosophical terms, you will see that you are using it incorrectly. So at least if you don't want to go and look up the error, which is from our point of view a knockdown error, at least go and look up because when you use the word knowledge, it tells me that you've never looked this up. You don't know what you are talking about.
No, knowledge. I'm using it in the Arabic sense.
What is the philosophical definition of knowledge?
Knowledge, as in the philosophical definition, when we say knowledge, there is like certain knowledge in Arabic. We say ilm yaqini, like certain knowledge, and then there is probable knowledge, and then there is like dhanni, and then there is there are levels, but I'm speaking about certain knowledge.
And what is certain knowledge?
You have certain knowledge comes about when you have a reason, then you have another reason and another reason, and they come together. The more the reasons, the more we believe we have. The more we have reasons to believe, the more certain we are about something. So when we look at, for example, I'll give you an example.
Don't worry about it. Fruitful, don't worry about the example. I understand what you're saying. You don't need to bring up an example. I'm just encouraging you to look into philosophy, and because again, you're just using Muslim gobbledygook terms here that nobody else accepts, and you can use your own terms, but then you can't have a rational conversation with the rest of us in the world and expect that we are going to take it seriously. When you bring up certain knowledge, probable knowledge, nobody talks this way. And if you and some Muslims want to talk this way, fine, you can use your own language, but then you come and speak to the rest of us, and we're going to say to you, hey guys, you can't make up your own crap here just because it suits you. You've got to use what everybody else in the world uses, and nobody else talks like that. So by all means, go ahead and do that. If you go and look up the philosophical literature, this is not what it means or says or what people talk about, and this includes Christians. Everybody.
I could be wrong about this.
You are wrong about it. So again, I would ask you to go look this up. If you said to me, hey, I believe the Quran, I'm okay with that. You say, I know the Quran, I'm not okay with that because you don't know the Quran.
Yes, I don't know everything in the Quran. I just read it and I try to understand it.
To listen to what people are saying. Maybe we speak too fast. I appreciate it. Maybe we'll slow down. Anyway, okay.
Can I say something?
Yeah, please go ahead. I've got to go to the toilet for a moment. Go ahead.
All right, because I want you to hear this. Just this. Can you give me 30 seconds?
Go ahead.
Okay, he left. Well, I want to show you what Gallup study shows. Let me see. Application window. I don't know if you guys can see my screen now. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, go ahead.
Yep.
Okay. So this is Gallup study from 2012. You know, because, when you talk about this stuff, it's a little bit difficult because there's a cognitive bias, scientific methods. It's not, not everybody get this stuff. And, Muslim world haven't really had a reformation. So these things, you don't talk about it, you just submit and accept it. So this is a Gallup study from 2012. And the study should be called Religion and Atheism. And if you go down to page 15, you should find the following. Okay, here it is. So if you look at this one, they asked about if you're convinced atheist, not religious, or religious. So it's basically these three that I'm going to look at. If you look at convinced atheist, and you go down to Saudi Arabia, which you have here, look at the numbers. 5% call themselves atheists in Saudi Arabia, the place birth of Islam. And those who are not religious are 19%.
So
yeah?
So what are you saying?
I'm saying that, basically I'm talking to the audience. What I'm seeing right now is a lot of denial. Not knowing is fine. But he also tell you, go look it up, come back. and I see that basically you don't really like this information, but I'm telling the rest, let's have this conversation. It's worth it, even in the heart of Islam. You have 5% atheists, 90. I'm not finished. 90% the columns are not religious. And if you go to America, according to Pew Research, they released a report here from 2018. You'll see that Islam is gaining as much people as they are losing. From the adults that were raised Muslims, 23% are no longer calling themselves a Muslim. And I'm not finished. Yeah. And American Muslim adults who converts to Islam is also 23%. So they're gaining the same numbers as they're losing. So Islam is not growing because of conversion. Here we have another report by Pew Research. So I'm giving you reference because I want you guys to have this from 6th of April 2017. We see here.
I'm aware that there are many people.
Yeah, I'm talking to everybody, included audience. The main reason for Islam's growth is because Muslims have more children. That's what Pew Research, that's the conclusion they came to.
Yep.
And also another reason, the Muslim population are younger than the rest, I guess. So they have more children and they're younger. And one more thing here, if I might say. Hold on. Last point.
Go ahead.
Meanwhile, the religious switching, people don't leave Islam that in the same numbers. The negative, yeah. So So religious switching, more children, and atheism is growing in the Muslim world. I just showed the number from Saudi Arabia. So that's what I wanted to say, basically.
Okay. First of all, we Muslims, we don't. Of course, we have concern for people. Okay, but there is no argument here. Okay, even if every person on the face of the earth disbelieves in God. Okay, you are responsible for what you believe. You're not responsible for what other people believe. Okay. The way I look at it is that Islam, Islam is not, it doesn't deal with numbers. You see, to have when the Prophet ﷺ he came with the message, he was one person. Okay, and after the Islam was established, then the people came into Islam. So I don't see any argument in this. There has to be some type of implementation of the religion in order for people to come to Islam. You see.
Are you okay if somebody wants to leave?
This is a reflection. My point is stops. This is a reflection of the state of the Muslims they are in today. It is not, if you look at the Muslims who entered into our countries long ago, who are our fathers? They won them to Islam. You see?
Yeah, but how did they become Muslims?
That's fine. But are you okay with somebody who wants to leave? Who wants to leave Islam? Are you okay that they are allowed? They should be able to do that.
To tell you the truth, if a person rejects faith, knowing that God and His Messenger are true, God is the truth and the Prophet ﷺ is or rejects not necessarily Islam. He could be a Christian who becomes he insults he insults Jesus or one of the prophets. I would say
answer this question, Fruitful.
Yes, I'm answering it.
Okay.
If a person, the way I look at it, if a person rejects truth, then I don't see why it is even a problem that God should punish him in this way. He mentions. So I don't see that it's
people who want to leave Islam, they should be free to do so in this world or in the afterlife.
No, I am saying that people who, because the problem is that I see that Islam is the truth, known to be truth through evidence, clear evidence. So when I see the Prophet ﷺ's his message, I understand that a person who leaves it he cannot be a good person. This is how I see it. He
Okay.
cannot be a good person.
This is not the question. The question was, are you okay with it?
I'm not okay with it. I would be very sad.
Do you realize that you are better than your God?
What did you say? Like God is... What did you say, Sobs?
Are you aware that you are better than your God?
How is that? God is my creator.
No, it's not. God is somebody who keeps you doing the things that other people, old people, 1,000 years want you to do. That's it. But the point is that a God, the God of Islam, punishes people who don't believe what this God wants them to believe. And if anyone is leaving Islam, then
I don't look at it this way. I say that God punishes people who are ungrateful to Him. That is how I look at it. And it's indifferent. Whether
I know
or not,
that's how you look at it. But I'm saying you are better than your God because your God says that whoever is leaving Islam should be killed. And you are saying, no, actually not. There's a different way of looking at it, which is a better attitude than what your God.
No. I believe the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever changes his religion, he should be changes his religion from Islam to something worse. To something less. Islam to something less, he should be killed.
Do you agree with that?
I accept that the Prophet ﷺ said that. I agree with it, but I don't see that it is morally unjust. Why? Why is that?
So should somebody be killed if they leave Islam?
If Islam were false, then nobody should be punished.
No, that's not my question. My question is, should somebody who leaves Islam be killed the way that Prophet Muhammad?
I believe that if there were, it's not up to me to do anything, but it's up to the Islamic
judge,
to the Muslim, not the Muslim rule.
Yeah, would you agree with it with your Muslim ruler if he says we're going to kill this apostate?
Yes, I do agree with this. But this is, I don't believe it is rational. I don't believe that there is a rational argument against this. I believe that it is only emotional what you're going into. It is because you reject Islam that you think that it is unjust. Well, yes, of course. If you reject Islam, you will believe it is unjust.
If God punishes you in the next life, that is up to God. We're talking about here and now.
I don't see
when everybody dies, then they'll find out.
God created this life and He created the next life, and He creates it. Everything that happens in it is in line with His perfection.
But isn't that fascism? You want to dictate how people will live? It's a thought crime, right?
No. It is if a person knows God and knows His messenger, and then he rejects it or chooses to be a bad person.
What is a bad person? Just change your mind.
I don't consider it changing the mind. If he doesn't know, then he shouldn't be killed. He should.
No, he knows, and he don't believe.
No. It's his definition. His definition of leaving makes.
I don't see. See, you're saying that he knows it. I don't believe he knows it.
Like I know about Tawheed, right? Let's say I convert to Islam, and then I want to leave 2 years later. Should I be killed if I live in a Muslim country where they implement Sharia?
If you reject Islam, that would be, if you reject Islam, if you're a Christian, you can be Christian.
No, I convert to Islam 2 years later. I was like, no, I don't want anything from Islam. Hold on, I'm not finished. I'm not finished. And I'm in a country where they have Sharia and all criteria is fulfilled. All I did is just change my mind. I still love that country, still love my family, my neighborhood. I just changed my mind when it comes to believing in Allah.
Yeah.
Should I be killed? Do you agree?
I'm not a legal scholar, but you should be killed if it is if you I don't know whether or not, if you like to speak about it and it is known that you don't accept, if you claim yourself to be an atheist or any other religion, then يعني, that is true. But that is irrelevant. Why? Why is that irrelevant? Because Islam
It is not irrelevant.
It is irrelevant. Why? Because Islam did not come to kill
It is sad what Islam does to the mind.
No, listen to me. Islam came to guide people. If there is bad people,
no, it corrupts people.
I don't see it that way. You have to convince me that it is rationally unacceptable to kill someone.
It is rationally unacceptable. It is rationally unacceptable to kill someone just because they changed their mind about something. It is rationally unacceptable. If a woman has less rights than a man has been killed for it, that's rationally unacceptable.
No, I don't believe it's rationally unacceptable. Why? Because I believe it is a circular argument. What you're doing is circular. You're saying I don't accept that killing an apostate is moral, okay? Because Islam is false. Is that true?
No, it has nothing to do with it. I'm saying Islam corrupts the mind so that people find it acceptable to kill people because they change their mind. That's what I'm saying.
Don't kill people. No, it is up to it is the law that takes them to court, and they are given 3 days. They're not. It's not like.
And it's not acceptable. That's what I'm telling you, and that's why Islam corrupts the mind.
You will stand before God and you will answer to Him. Why did you reject Him?
I will tell, if I go and stand in front of this God who says that apostates should be killed, who says that women should be killed just because they do something wrong, then I will give this God my big finger and tell him to go fuck off, because it's not acceptable for a God to treat people like that.
Why should, which is a greater punishment? Is it hell or is it being killed in this life? I see hell as a greater punishment.
May I respond to that?
Hell is a fantastic place. That's where all the interesting people are.
God, if it is right for God, if it is just for God to punish an ungrateful person, because in hell, then how can it not be right for him to? How can it be unjust for him to command that to give a command that he should be judged? He should get the capital punishment if he doesn't repent in this life. I don't. Even the capital punishment can be even a mercy. It's more merciful than hell.
Oh, come on. The way that God is described in the Quran, this is a psychopath.
It's up to you. You will. It's up to you to think about.
May I say something? Yeah. So you remember, it's a belief that we have. You're a Muslim. I'm a Christian. We have agnostic, atheist. It's a belief. Nobody knows 100%. It's a belief. So we should have mercy on each other. And if the afterlife actually exists, then God can do whatever He wants over there. But when we are in this life, you should try to persuade people. Hold on. Good. I'm not finished. Hold on. Can you give me a second?
Yes.
So you try to persuade people with good arguments. And then, if it doesn't work, see them as your brothers and sisters. Don't kill them. Example, I have here an article. Can you guys see my screen? Man sentenced to death for atheists in Saudi Arabia. So this stuff is real. It really happens. And I want to ask.
Listen to this. Are you saying liberal? Are you saying that we are good representatives of our religion? I would say no, we are not good representatives of our religion.
Now I'm saying the Sharia law is bad. If people want to change their mind, they still love their country. It should be okay.
The most merciful and the most just and the most merciful, just and perfect law. However, we are not being good representatives.
Not for slaves.
Everything in Sharia. No, everything in Sharia is just.
Okay,
understand. Don't come from the same angle I come from.
Okay, let me say something about the mercy of Allah. Maybe you can comment on this one. On Quran 4:155 and 56 and 57, it speaks about the Jews.
Yes.
I just want to comment on this one, and then I'm finished. I won't interrupt. It speaks about the Jews and their disbelief, uttering basically blasphemy. But here we see that they are boasting that they killed the Messiah.
The son of Mary.
Yeah. So first of all, Jews don't kill their own Messiah, right? So they say we killed our Messiah, meaning they actually believe that he's a Messiah, which is a great error. No Jews would do that if they actually call him Messiah. But then it keeps on saying that this Messiah is actually Jesus, and it says they killed him not, nor crucified him, but they resemble someone who looked like Jesus was put on the cross. So if the Quran and Allah is rational in every way, we accept this. If it's clear, we accept this. Isn't Allah actually responsible for deceiving billions of people?
He didn't. I don't see that. Believing a Christian who believes that Jesus was crucified. Okay, that is not where the contention is. The contention is who we claim Jesus is.
No, you missed my whole point. My point was Allah put someone that looks like Jesus to be crucified. So if this is the last message, she didn't clarify all the confusion. Why is he deceiving? Isn't he responsible for deceiving a lot of people?
Resemblance. Okay, yes, but I don't believe that even if one person were, you see, God is just. He will not take into account someone for something he doesn't know. But the issue is, I don't believe that God will put anyone in hell for something if no prophet came to him. You see, he has to have. God is just. You see, Allah says, وَمَا كُنَّا مُعَذِّبِينَ. We were not to punish anyone if he were not to. If a prophet were not to come to him, وَمَا كُنَّا مُعَذِّبِينَ until we send a messenger.
Yeah, but you're not engaging in my argument. My argument was he put someone on the cross that looked like him.
Yes, you are saying that Jesus was a resemblance was put on a man, and he was crucified instead of Jesus.
That looked like him. That is the main
God
point.
is a deceptive.
Yes,
he's tricking people.
What I am saying is that Christians are wrong to claim that, not because. I don't even begin to speak about this. Whether or not this is not the issue. The issue is, do Christians who do Christians believe in as God?
You're not engaging my argument. My argument. Let's say that you're 100% right. Why is Allah now deceiving people? If it's supposed to be the last message, clarify everything. It's peaceful. All right. So he's putting someone that looks like him. So I'm just saying that there's a lot of points that we have giving you, but this is also if it's the most merciful last message.
He lifted him up to heaven.
Okay.
He will come back.
Okay, last thing. This is how Islam spread the first 100 years. So if it's the most merciful, if it's clear, very rational, then why did the first 4 leaders of Islam spread it?
Listen.
Hold on, I'm speaking.
I believe that the Prophet ﷺ was sent.
I'm speaking, my man. Wait, give me a second. I'm going to give you time to speak. So if Islam is rational, we believe you. Islam is clear. Why don't you persuade people with good arguments? Why did the first generations Muslims, actually first 30, 40 years, invaded, all over, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Qatar, all these places, went in Damascus, 636, Jerusalem, 638, Egypt, 642, 4142, Libya, 647, Persia, around 640, something like that. Spain, 711. Why don't you use the rational argument that you said that you have, and then it's super clear? Why do you actually use the sword?
By the sword, as you seem to.
Yes, the empire was spread by the sword.
Yes, that is true. The empire was spread by the sword. Why? Because God commanded the Prophet ﷺ to fight his enemies.
But his enemies is in Persia, or Spain or China.
Yes, because why? Because the Prophet ﷺ, he sent the messages. He was commanded to send the messages to the kings of the earth. He sent the message to the Byzantine emperor. I think his name was Herakl. He wrote to him, inviting him to Islam. He said to him, "Aslim taslam, submit to God and you will be safe.
Or we will invade you."
What did the message say? O people of the book, let us come to common terms between us and you, that we do not worship except God. Okay, and that.
What happened if you don't want to submit to another kingdom?
Don't. Then there will always be. At the time, I don't know how it should be resolved today. But at the time,
know what happened. Hold on, we know what happened in history.
There was always. What's the word? There was always
extortion.
No, there was not extortion.
Conquest.
There was always a line of like the Muslims, they had their land, and then the non-Muslims, they had their land, and there was always like kings within each nation, and they would always fight one another. You see, that was how the world was before. The Prophet ﷺ, he was not a king, he was a prophet, but he was sent. He said in the hadith, he said, what did he say?
My man, you're not engaging in argument.
I have been commanded
to fight everybody until they convert.
To fight the people until. There is a difference. What is meant by this fighting? That is true. Okay. This is
the difference. Okay, you do this with a mishpat, right?
Let me give me a second. It can be against the Arabs. It can be against the.
My man, you're missing my whole point. You're missing my whole point. If this religion is rational, built on rationality, is very clear. Then you should not use the sword to take over other people's land.
There is a verse. No. There is a verse. Okay, I understand your point. There is a verse which speaks exactly about what you're saying.
Just sum it up. Just sum it up.
Yeah, I sum it up. The verse is in Surah Al-Hadid. It speaks exactly about what you're saying. There is always.
Just say it in your own words, my man.
Okay. It says, "We have already sent our messengers with clear evidences, and sent down with them the scripture and the balance, that the people may maintain their affairs in justice. And we sent down iron, wherein is great military might and benefits for the people, and so that Allah may make evident those who support him and his messengers unseen. Indeed, Allah is powerful and exalted in might." So I don't see there is a difference, there is a clash.
Okay, do you agree with invading other people's country?
Of rhetoric. There were always Muslim scholars who were calling people to Islam. The job of the military is not to coerce Christians and Jews to accept Islam. No, it is not. That's not the job. The verse specifically says, if they pay there is a payment, it's given, and khalas, they have their churches and their synagogues and whatever. It's not coercing people.
You're talking about colonization. You go into their country, you take over their leadership, and do you agree with that? You take the women as war booty, whatever. I
don't know. I believe that Islam is very tolerant. I don't believe it is like colonization as the Christians did to us, for example. No, that is great injustice.
Was it right when Umar invaded Egypt and Jerusalem? With the military?
Jerusalem was not invaded militarily. The keys were handed to Umar.
When he stood with an army outside the gates, yes. Either you fight us, that's called invasion, my man.
Yes.
If you stand, hold on. If I come to someone that you care about, and I come with 10 of my friends, and I surround that person. Hold on, I'm speaking. Hold on.
No, this is all irrelevant. This is all irrelevant.
Hold on. It's my example.
Listen,
hold on. Can you give me a moment? I'll let you speak. Right? So someone that you care about, right? And I stand with 10 of my friends around that person and say, "Give me your bag. I want your wallet." Let's say wallet. And that person give me that wallet without a fight. Did I not transgress the boundaries? Did that person give me the wallet freely? Would you say that?
It is not right for anyone to steal anyone's property. Islam didn't come to steal other people's property. You see, Islam is a guidance. But there are, for example, when you're saying that the jizya it has many benefits, I believe, from my perspective. It's not your perspective.
Hold on, what was my question? What was my question? Do you remember that?
Yeah. Yes, you're saying about extortions. Yes, we don't believe in extortions.
No, that was my question. Did the person give away the country willingly? That's my question.
they don't even have to give away their country.
Wow. This is the typical conversation you have with Muslims. They are professional, I'll tell you like this, they're professional liars. I asked them a straight out question. If I stand with my friends, if I stand with my friends around one woman and say, give me the wallet, and she gives it to me, is it willingly or was she pressured into do it? And the same thing is, if you invade 50 countries.
Not willingly. It's not willingly. It's not willingly.
Of course. That's with force.
Yes. Yes. However, it is a right. It is a right or commanded by God. That's how I see it. And God, he says,
you have a sick brain. This, I don't know how much I can handle. This is so sick.
Yeah,
really.
I'm glad this
I don't know how you can sit here in the year 2018 and give us such a sick rendition of what your brain is. Really, I cannot handle this. This is too much for me. I cannot understand how a human being that I share a genome with can be such a corrupt, vile person to tell me these things, that to tell me, no, we didn't invade Spain. It is our right to go into Spain and steal the country. It is our right to kill these people because we are Muslims. We are better than everybody else, and we have a right to go everywhere we want in the whole world and spread our bullshit. This is so terrible. You are such a terrible human being. Do you even know that?
I swear to God, I love good for every person. I love God. I love good for every person on the face of this earth, and you don't know how much I care. But I don't. I believe that. Okay, what stops? What you are saying is that you are saying that this is the threat that is coming to the nations. Is that true?
People like you are a threat to humanity.
Okay, listen to me, Stops. Please, I just want you to speak very rationally.
You have been talking for hours today. You have given us nothing except bullshit.
Okay, that's an emotional argument. I don't accept anything emotional. It has to be rational. I don't accept anything which is not rational. I'm sorry.
Oh my God, from you, I have to listen to this bullshit from you? Unbelievable. Okay, answer you. I don't have.
Liberal.
Okay.
Listening. I'm very disappointed because you came here.
You don't have to be disappointed.
Hold on.
I swear to God, there is not a Muslim there is not a good Muslim.
I'll tell you like this.
Cry about an injustice. Okay? There is not who doesn't cry about injustice. We are very just. We have a very strong sense of justice.
Okay, let me ask you. According to the Gallup study that I showed earlier, because I want Rob to see this one.
I didn't explain to you what we believe, how it should be dealt with.
Okay, I just want, maybe you can answer afterwards. So I'm just going to show this one first, and then you can. So Rob, are you here?
Yeah, I've seen it.
You've seen it. Okay, so is this one from 2012? I want to ask you, what do you think should happen? Let me see, page. To the 5% atheists in Saudi Arabia.
What do I think?
I believe that we have to fix our problem by teaching the people and coming. The scholars have to teach the people their religion, how beautiful it is, and how rational it is. Because many of these people, they don't know anything. Many of these people I know are arrogant, but many don't know.
So 5% are atheists in Saudi Arabia, and 19% says they're not religious, and they don't want to change their minds. What should happen to them?
No. If there is, people. If there is a law, if there is a religious knowledge, people naturally go to what is good. If they don't go to what is good, then I don't know how to deal with it.
What should happen?
But God punishes people. God punishes people.
I'm talking about this life.
Yes, I'm saying about this life. If a nation were to become atheist, it would be punished in every worst way. God will punish it.
Not a nation. I'm talking about the 5% says they are atheists.
Yeah. It is not up to me. Listen, it's not up to me.
If the judge says we should, if the judge said this, we should kill them for becoming atheist, would you agree with the judge, or would you say don't do it?
I would agree that we have many more important things that we have to do first before doing that.
That's not my question. When you actually have a judge says these 5%, maybe they are 100,000 people. I don't know the numbers of Saudi Arabia. Should these 100,000 people be killed?
5% is a very large number.
Yeah. Do you agree that if the judge says let's kill them because Muhammad said so?
How can you kill 5% of the nation? It's impossible.
Just answer my question.
He is immoral. He will not answer you. He is immoral down to the core.
The way you deal with these things is you increase the knowledge of why Islam is the truth. That is how you should deal with it.
And if they don't want to change their mind, that was my question.
If you don't want to change they don't want to change their mind. I don't see how it is possible to do anything.
And the judge says you're going to kill them. Do you agree with the judge, or will you actually protest against them?
You like making witch hunts, like that kind of stuff.
And I give up.
I don't believe that we have to, come to test people. People, it's between them and God. But if a person comes out outwardly and speaks, then that is to be dealt with.
Okay, I think we can do an after.
But Rob, there is a very important when you speak about I don't like this blaming, the way you blame Muslims for this. The troubles, I swear, stops. I wish you'd listen to me now. The trouble which the West is going through now is the threats between the Westerners, between one another, is far more greater than anything that the Muslims can ever achieve against you. The Westerners have been towards each other. They've been destructive towards each other more than any other army has been towards it. So the problem is, I see the problem is how we can help people come back to God, because God is able to send a punishment from above you. He doesn't have to wait for Muslims to do it. God can send a punishment from above you. He can send a punishment from below. He can make you into differing sects and make you taste the one another's injustice.
Okay, let's bring this to a close now. I think if we want to go into an after show, we can talk in an after show. Answer did join us. Before we do that, though, Answer, you've been quiet there. Do you want to share any thoughts, and then we'll bring it to a close stop? So if you can find a hadith, and then we can go into an after show, which won't be broadcast live, but people can still have a conversation if they like. So, Answer, do you want to share anything based on what you've heard this evening?
Yeah, I'll probably pretty much just say one of the same things that I always say, which is, isn't it funny and interesting how we come across the same problem? Now, the title of the show was that somebody's coming along with rational arguments. I didn't hear a single rational argument. I rarely heard a rational comment, to be fair, from the guest. I don't want to be rude, but he kept cutting in. Every time somebody tried to speak, he wouldn't even let them say a sentence, and he kept jumping in. So it was very difficult to have a flowing conversation with the man. But I mean, like I say, my main point is the same as always. These people are brought up and brainwashed literally from the day they are born that this magical God definitely exists, and it's the only one that exists, and you guys are special and lucky to be blah, blah, blah. And you know what? For their feeble minds, it's too much for them to be ever educated out of, because they only tried or ever looked into it seriously when they were like 20 or 25. And you know what I mean? It was too late for them, So again, we're faced with these people who turn up and they're 100% sure because they've been brainwashed since the day they were born. They don't have a rational argument, but they're so brainwashed that they don't realize that they don't have a rational argument. And they think that them regurgitating their basic brainwashing and the claims that they simply just keep regurgitating to each other, they think that counts as rational argument. It doesn't, and it's really sad that anybody thinks it is. But I mean, yeah, just basically, it was quite a sad show in the sense that we didn't hear anything that comes close to a rational argument for anything. Stops did point out quite a few specific issues with things, and Rob, you made some good points as well, especially about when it came to the technical details of inheritance in the Quran. At the end of the day, if the man had said, look, show me what the argument is. I'll listen to you now and tell you what I think as a preliminary, and then I'll go and research it and come back with what I think is the real deal. If he had said that, I would have had a lot of respect for that. But he basically said, no, I'm not willing to listen to it because I'm already sure that you're wrong.
I said I am willing to look at it, but it's not the right way to approach the topic. That's what I said.
Okay, Fruitful, you've heard his. I'm going to give you sort of the last word to finish off here, and then Stops will do a certainly on the live show anyway. Stops, you can do a hadith of the day. So
yep, ready.
Apart from anything else, I'm going to say thank you for coming on. I agree we didn't hear enough of a good arguments here, and I hope you will go and investigate this inheritance. I think this is a very important thing. So I want to give you the last word. We might carry on in an after show, but have a last word, and then we'll go to Stops on the hadith.
Yes, I just don't want it to be understood that I am being arrogant. I swear to God, I have no arrogance in my heart. I try at least my best not to be trying. But what I am saying is that we are all responsible before God for whatever arrived to us from this from the information, and that we will all be responsible before God on the day of resurrection. We will all stand before Him, and He will ask us about His blessings that He gave us, and whether we surrendered our faces to Him. This is the most important thing. Nothing else matters. I swear to God, nothing else matters in this life. If you die rejecting God or worshipping another with God, you have lost everything. You have lost absolutely everything. And okay,
obviously we don't believe that, Fruitful. So I mean, that's fine that you can preach that, but we don't believe on the show saying those things doesn't mean a lot to us.
My intention is not to preach. My intention is not to preach. My intention is to say that we have to be objective when we look at things. We shouldn't buy into this the pressure of people. No, we have to be honest and we have to be truthful.
Okay, well, I hope, Fruitful, I thank you for coming on, and I hope you will take your own advice as well, particularly on the error that we've given you, and then maybe we'll speak again at some point. So I'm going to hand over now to Stops for the hadith of the day, and then we'll put it into an after show for those who want to continue. Stops, over to you.
No problem. Do you mind if I leave now?
Yeah, you can leave if you want, or you can stay for the after show. It's up to you entirely.
Okay, I'm going to give you a hadith which shows that Muhammad is not really knowledgeable about anything, is a clueless, uneducated person who has no idea what is going on, because according to Ibn Umar, Muhammad said, keys of unseen knowledge are 5, which nobody knows but Allah. Nobody knows what will happen tomorrow. Nobody knows what is in the womb. Nobody knows what he will gain tomorrow. Nobody knows at what place he will die, and nobody knows when it will rain. Sahih Bukhari 217, 149. Well, I know that tomorrow it's going to rain because we have weather forecasts, we have satellites in the sky, so I know it is going to rain. Sorry, Muhammad, you're wrong.
Okay, I'm going to thank everybody on the panel. Thank you to all the guys here, Liberal, to Answer, and obviously to Stops. Thank you for everybody who's watching. We're going to go into an after show. I'm going to put the link into the chat here. So if you are watching, you can join via the chat. We'll let you in, and if you misbehave, you'll be kicked out. If you're a Muslim, feel free to join and share your thoughts. Fruitful has left. At least he came on and had a conversation in one way or another. So most Muslims don't do that. So, and I hope he goes to look into the error that we've put there. So thanks to everybody else. We'll say goodnight to you now. I just want to make sure I hit the right button here, and I don't. I just want to make sure. Yeah, I think it's. Which one is it now? Is it the telephone?
The red one in the middle at the bottom.
Is that the one?
No, not the telephone.
Not the telephone. So the
telephone will kill you. You need the one underneath it.
There we go. That's it. All right. Thank you to everybody. We're going into an after show, and I'll post a link in the chat if you want to join us. Good night, and we'll see you next Friday, 8 p.m.